how the second to last and last picture you're seeing will look like. Our objective for this presentation or this training is to create emotional, moral, and psychological stability in the participants, to guide participants towards their journey to retirement for a successful transition, and discuss the essential ingredients of a happy and successful retirement in life. That's how our presentation outline. I will not go through, but basically we shall look at what is retirement, what is pension, the implication of formal retirement, what one must do to have a successful retirement, and then conclusion. Retirement is the withdrawal from one's position, occupation, or from one's active working life. The mandatory retirement age for the public service currently is 60 years for traditional civil servants, and for judges from 60 and above, 65 and above. I was looking at the mandatory retirement in different countries. I think the highest is 68. That is Denmark. You can see the range is in 60, so we are not far away. So pension is in the public service is a steady and regular income paid to a person, usually after retirement and under legal or contractual terms. In the context of Uganda, is a monthly payment from consolidated fund to our public officers who serve, retire, or die under pensionable circumstances. Participants, you will see that pensionable circumstances the words are really highlighted. And I request all of you in the next presentation to see what requires one to retire under pensionable circumstances. We have had instances where people work, retire, and at the end they cannot get their benefits because of the terms they joined service and how they retired. Does not allow, according to the Pensions Act, does not allow one to get what? The benefits. So, ladies and gentlemen, you will take in the next in the next presentation, so that to avoid that commotion at the end when you retire from service. Also, to qualify for pension, therefore, a public officer must be appointed on probation or waiver of probation, be confirmed in the service, but more importantly, must retire under pensionable circumstances. Why do we pay pension? I'll go straight to, I think these pictures speak to themselves and can tell you why do we pay pension. As we retire, we continue with the social obligations, legal obligations, mitigate old age poverty. It's a good human resource practice that when one serves diligently and retires, should retire with benefits. Health issues. We all know that as we get old and older, our bodies changes, and that calls for more frequenting the healthy checkups. You can see the picture number 3. That old man there is with his medical person trying to check up. And you might agree with me that right now when you're still active, you can even take 2 to 3 months without checking up. But in old age, it's a different story. You must check up to arrest those health issues that may rise early. So I encourage you to do that, and that's why really we pay pension. Pension rights are anchored or provided for in different laws, both international, domestic, and regional laws. And number one is Article 254 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, the International Labour Organization Convention, Article 22 of the UN Bill of Rights, the Pensions Act cap to 81 and amended to 86, the UPDF Act, the Local Governments Act, the Public Service Act, the Public Service Standing Orders 2021, the Pension Fund Act 2025, of course, of the reform now. And as we go on, we shall see why the government has done to reform the pension service scheme. So these are the statistics, retirement statistics. Ladies and gentlemen listening, I wish you take keen of this. That's what will guide our next slide. And we must think deeper with these statistics that really brings out the current pension scheme. Growing aging population. The global population of older persons is increasing rapidly. Longevity is rising. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the recent pension payroll analysis we have carried in the entire public service. We have seen the number of pensioners living to 50 years on pension payroll is increasing. That means the lifespan now, when you look at 50 and somebody retired at 60 years, that is 110. So in your planning for retirement, don't look at a shorter period. That means you're likely to live longer and you might outlive your savings. So planning for retirement is now. Longer life, greater dependency. And we have seen as there was experience recently in our pension clinic where we organize post-retirement, where we go out and meet these elderly retirees, is that as they grow older and older, the dependency becomes high. They are looking after their families, their children, and their grandchildren. Retirement income must stretch across extended years and growing responsibilities. Limited government support. As we retire and get pension, get gratuity and other benefits, all the benefits we get, it is now proved that it cannot be enough to cater for all your basic needs. What does that mean? It means that you have to plan ahead. Pension will be something to substitute what you have already. You have to diversify your income so that to be able to meet all your basic needs. Old age pensions, affordable health care and insurance, housing and food support continues as you retire. It does not stop when you retire from service. There's this statistics that when retirees need 70 to 80% of their final salary to maintain a secure and decent life. Ladies and gentlemen, look at your current salary, your basic salary right now. And when you retire, you need, if you're to sustain most of your needs, you need to maintain 70 to 80%, of which pension will not cater for that. Therefore, look at other options that will come and support your pension to be able to have 80% of what you're earning currently, so that you continue meeting your needs. Many retirees exhaust pension benefits actually in the first 3 or 5 years. And in other schemes where they give a lump sum, imagine you're given a lump sum money, no monthly pension coming in, and you have utilized all your lump sum money that you're given in 4 years. What next in the following years? Early planning pays off. Employees who begin planning in mid-career enjoy better quality of retirement. As we go on, I know members will be raising the issue that I wish I knew early, but members, I want to encourage you that there is no early than today. You can start now and make a better retirement life. So please, at the end of this 2 days training, please start. Leave alone any other excuses. Please start with small or big salary you earn, with the allowances you earn. Please start. Some early retirees thrive due to timely preparation and diversified income strategies. And dear participants, what we are talking is not new. Even the Bible talks about it, about work, save, and have a better life in your old age. Look in the Bible, this is New Testament, 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 8. We worked night and day that we may not be burdened to any of us. This talks to us who think sometimes that we base on our children sometimes, that we have worked, we have educated them, so they will look after us. We are creating to be a burden to our families tomorrow when we retire. Many Ugandan retirees start small businesses using retirement benefits. Participants, honestly, this is not really, it's not coming out well. How do you get your gratuity and plan to start a business which you have any knowledge about it? You have not tried. And remember, at retirement, your energy levels is low. You cannot compete with the young generation. So please start your business early, and maybe your benefits will be to support it to grow bigger and bigger. Unfortunately, most of these ventures collapse within 3 years due to weak business management and poor market analysis. The unfunded public service pension scheme is becoming financially unstable for government. Thank God there is a new reform to look into this that introduced Public Service Pension Fund Act 2025. Rising cost of living reduces the ability to save. Retirees must plan for fluctuating prices and uncertain economic environments. We can look at the current inflation. Currently, we are at 3.8%. And that calls for, that makes your money not, the value keeps on what? Depreciating. So you must save and plan. Health and aging realities. We have to agree that as we age, health issues are increasing. We have a really researched paper on when we went out for post-retirement, 10 people you meet, the retirees, out of 10, you'll find that 4, either they are having hypertension or diabetes or any other complications. As you age, also that is prone to health issues. So why do we do this? So what does this call for? This calls for planning properly. Plan for your healthy lifestyle, eating, exercising, and having a relaxed mind. Investment knowledge gaps, limited investment, and financial literacy affects wealth building. Where knowledge exists, it is really passed to younger generation. Current inflation is 5.8. Each year in retirement requires more income, maintain the same standards. We have the several misconceptions about retirement. Investment requires huge capital, which civil servants do not have. At the beginning, ladies and gentlemen, I told you that this is the immediate question that will come, where members will say, I have little salary, I have many expenses that do not allow me to save. You can save. You can apply realistically with the little salary you're getting. You cut costs and stick to your plan. Fewer or no dependents. Many people think that as they age, they will not have dependents at all. My children will have grown. But with the current analysis, it shows that even your children will bring their children under your care. So dependence will always come. If I have a health insurance plan and medical care, all the medical expenses will be sorted. Some people think so, but medical insurance will not fund your 100% health issues. There is still plenty of time for me to start saving for retirement. And I think this is where most of us, we fall. You start counting, how long do I have? I still have 20 years. I say I will start with the remaining 10 years, I will. And yet you should have started planning for retirement the day you received your appointment, your deployment, and accepted. With the first salary, you should have said, how much am I going to save on this? But this calls for discipline, to stick to your plan. Saving just a little bit won't help. That's what people say. That what does me saving 100,000 per month say? But look at your 100,000. If the time you join the service, you stick to saving 100,000 up to now, how much would you be having? And when you save, please, I know there is a presentation on investment and so on. Don't make money like that. Let money make money. See the small businesses, small investment options you can put in your money to add in a coin on what you've saved. Others think I've educated all my children who will take care of me. And as Africans, we believe in our children so much that we even don't allow them to plan for themselves because we are already a burden. They are struggling to meet their expectations, but they have us pulling them back. There are a few options for civil servants to start businesses. There are a few options for civil servants. In many times in our circles, when we discuss with people, you will find that many will say, we don't have time to start. What can we do when we are supposed to report at 8 and leave at 5? And dear participants on call, I request you to pay attention to the next on investment, what you can do at the same time when you're still in active service. Now, this one. The choice you make is what you make in your active service. It will go with you in the retirement. Now, we all know this person. We know Ronaldinho during his time in during his time. He was fit, you can see. But when he left immediately, when he retired in his 40s, the Ronaldo of 27 and the Ronaldo of 40, if they meet, they will fight. They can't agree. When Ronaldo retired, he left doing exercises, he left everything, and now you can see him. So please take a decision, make a proper decision, stick to it, and walk the tune. And this is the second person who made another decision. Planned, stick to the decision. We all know Seedorf. Look at Seedorf during playing time and at retirement. Seedorf decided to be fit during active, even in retirement. You can see there is no big difference. So even you, the decision you make now, it can tell how you will be in after you retire. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a few questions I want us to reflect on. And Individually, be honest with yourself when you're answering these questions. How do I integrate into my community after years away? Most of us, we have left our communities. We have, where are you employed? If I am to ask, you might find it's not your home community where you will go after retirement, meaning that you have not bonded well with your community. But remember, when you retire from service, wherever you will be, the safer place is back to your community. And this is the community you have not been with, you have not contributed to, you have not associated to, but now it is time for you to go back. So you ask yourself, how do I reintegrate into my community after years away? Second one is, how do I transition into personal investments or productive work later in life? Because here we are used of salary, allowances, fuel. So we have not saved or we have not invested. But remember now, all that will stop. Your little pension will be coming, but now that pension will not be enough. You want to be active, you want to look for investment and so on. You're starting it at 60. How will you manage at that age? How do I identify meaningful goals in retirement? I need you to be honest, set reality goals to yourself. How do I strengthen family relationships? And this is very important, listeners who are listening. In the last pension clinics we had in the field with the pensioners, we found out that the main challenge, they termed it 3Ds. And these 3Ds is divorce, depression, and decline. So, how do I strengthen my family relationship? It comes to this. It's time to bond with your family. It's time to create time for your children, for your spouses, your siblings. Your title because of your relevance. But when you retire, those calls will not be there. The only person who will call you or people who will be concerned are those that are close to you. So, with the current testimony we have from the old retirees, inflation, we don't want you to have the same scenario. So this calls for bonding with your family, contribute to your family, join them in their gathering, be part of their life, because they will be part of your life in your old age. So the evening of life is as important as the morning. How is your morning today will determine your evening of life. What must I do now and later to overcome my retirement obstacles? After seeing all the obstacles and all the challenges related, what should one do to overcome the retirement obstacles? Ladies and gentlemen, identify and analyze my cost drivers. Look at the costs around you right now. Do you need those costs really? Can't you reduce on those costs? Can't you do away with some of the costs? When you retire, are you going to remain in this bungalow in Kampala? Or when you retire, you can turn it into something that brings money for you. Hold regular meetings with family, siblings, and relatives, like I said before. have a bond tie with your relatives, with the close friends, actually with old friends. Look, leave alone the friends you meet currently. They are old friends who know you and who will be checking on you at a later time. Lifestyle change. We must be speaking to ourselves honestly of what to eat, most especially if you have hit your 40s and above. Please be honest with what you eat, with the way you drink. If you have been drinking, I am not saying don't, but you can say, is it necessary to sit every evening to take 10 bottles? What can I replace with this? And start looking at every time of your life. Very productive. Evaluate my relationship with family, peers, associates, and workmates. Identify suitable investment opportunities and trying to invest your money early enough so as retirement approaches, you are stable in the enterprises without waiting to retire, and you start thinking, where do I invest in? And people have been there for many years. They know tricks. They know ups and downs. They know advantages and disadvantages. They know how to take opportunities when the business is grooming and when it is down. For you joining this industry, ladies and gentlemen, you will not succeed if you can't start now. Identify early and then start small. We need to do routine checkups because you can arrest some of the complications that are rising up. And those are the things that will be taking a lot of your pension in retirement. What advantage do I have as I'm still in service? You're lucky you have a salary, a steady income, you know it. So with the income you're earning monthly, how can you reduce your expenses to maximize savings? Community challenges. Look in your community where you're staying. Take advantage. Those are opportunity businesses. Look at what they are lacking and see how you can bring it in. Stable and supportive family, you need it. That one I keep saying you need it. You need it now and you need it when you retire. To avoid the 3 Ds I brought up: divorce, depression, decline. Some property such as land, and you can invest in some land. You might not be able to buy these posh areas of Kampala, but back home you have you can have land. You can buy a plot of land where you pay in installments. So you shouldn't say, I want to first have money, big money, or bigger salary to be able to do some investments. You can start small. You can do small investments. You grow to big. Last year when we were training this, somebody said, why do you tell us to start small? We are civil servants, we are working. It's how much you can manage. Realistically, how much you can manage that you start with. Because if you have to start for the bigger things, I don't think you will start. And it is small things you start with that will give you bigger things. Ladies and gentlemen, please start. This is how, when you plan, however your decisions in retirement, when you're active, what you plan, this is how it will look like. In your retirement, by the way, it is the time when you should have fun. You should have good time because you have no worries and anything. That's when you can have. There are 2 pictures there. I know you're seeing them. If you are to interpret, you can tell. They talk for themselves, actually. You can have old friends, and if you planned well, you can always have meetings. You can enjoy. Who tells you that when you grow old, it means you're going to die? No, you can still have good time. So this is These are two retirees with their family. Look at them, they are enjoying. And dear participants on call, you can have this. With all this above, what is my conclusion? Retirement is predictable. Poverty in retirement is avoidable. And I say start now. Planning early, diversifying income, and strengthening financial discipline are essential. Retirement should be a season of dignity, not crisis. Don't shy away from your community today. They may provide viable support to you when you retire. Thank you very much, dear participants on call.
Maureen. Thank you so much, Maureen, for the presentation, and thank you, participants, for being attentively listening to this. We really appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. I hope we are able to get something from this. And I really want to appreciate the numbers are really, really very impressive. Just to remind you that we also have a YouTube link. So for those who will not be able to access Zoom, kindly we have shared our YouTube link so you can equally get the same on YouTube. And the beauty, YouTube is also being recorded. So kindly we need to really get up to that. Thank you so much, Maureen. Next we'll have the PAC's remarks, but just before she comes in, we may, since we have just started this, we may take in a few questions. But again, we're also very close with following your concerns, your views, your questions. We really appreciate that. And we promise that this is a learning opportunity. We'll always continue making this a better experience. A number of people are raising some questions, and I think we'll respond to that. But one notable one was about the pictures. Someone was asking why we're not using our retiree pictures, why using footballers. This is certainly noted, and in future we hope to use our own retirees. We shall try to get to them, but it's all along. It's a process of getting their consent and all this and that, because we all know you can't use anyone's photo without their consent. But this is duly noted, and we shall definitely have these this noted for future planning. So in future, we plan to have better things, and all these experiences will ultimately improve our sessions in the future. So may I now, do you have any questions, any burning questions so far that we can use as we wait for our PS to get in? Hello?
When does the Pension Act 2025 be in use?
Right, thank you so much, Irene, for that question. The pensions, public service pension fund becomes operation next year, but deductions will start in July 2027. 1st of July is when it becomes fully operational. We are currently doing what we call pre-reform activities, the sensitization, setting up the necessary systems and all this and that. However, we also have a presentation on that. Our last presentation today will be on the highlights of the public service pension fund. And at that point, I'll be able to take through the reforms, the key highlights, and all this. So that will I'll definitely include that in my presentation. But just to know that the timelines next year, The board of trustees will be in place. There will be some skeleton staff seconded to start the fund. But come July 2027, we expect full operations where we shall now start the contributions and all this and that. But more details will come in the subsequent presentations. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes, good
Moses,
morning.
for organizing this workshop. My concern is really on the work demands. As the presenter pointed it out clearly that we need to start a little bit early with what we are supposed to be to do during our retirements. But you find the scenario in our country is that now we are going into more of technology, and it seems that workers are required to be at station 8 to 5. So actually, when do you get the time? When some people even tag your presence to your salary. I think as a Ministry of Public Service, you need to look into this aspect. Maybe you find a solution to those who are going to retire or to those who are due to retire so that they can prepare adequately. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martin, for the question. And just a quick response to that. Yeah, we take note of that. As I told you, we also have another presentation on the suitable investment opportunities for public officers. We are well aware that the times may not be as adequate as the rest, but just a brief one that we can still do something in the times we get. For example, I think we're one of the few work entities which doesn't work on weekends, like for most of the public officers, but even those who work over weekends get some days off. So I think it's just about how do we maximize the use of the available time. But I don't want to preempt that.
What's that?
Huh?
Airport. It's not.
And second, members, we have been informed that our YouTube, our Zoom link is full, but the YouTube, we have reshared our YouTube link. Kindly reshare for those who may not be here. We really want to get as many people as possible. We had an arrangement with the management of Zoom to have this extended. They had promised, but unfortunately, we have failed to see this happen. So, but for now, kindly encourage people to log on the YouTube and want the numbers to grow and want to do as many as possible.
Hello. Excuse me. Hello.
Hello. Yes, hello.
Hello.
Please go ahead.
Yes. This
I'm
is
hearing
Twe
you.
Jackson.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I just want to interrupt you a bit. I have a simple question. Just a simple question. How are these deductions, pension deductions, beneficial to the pensioner?
The pension deductions. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I will want to take you through that when we are handling the pension thing, because we have a whole presentation on that, and it's a bit of a long thing that I want us to get there when we'll talk about it, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay,
Hello.
please. Hello?
Hello. Yes, Moses.
Yes, please.
This is Peter.
Yes, Peter.
Hello. Yes, my question
Yes, Peter,
is.
I'm listening. Yeah.
Yes, my question is, why is the retirement age for judges different from the normal retirement age?
All right, thank you so much. Why the retirement age? Well, the judges, their retirement age has also been established by law. So the law has provided for them a longer, for judges, I think for judges, it goes up to 65. And even the judges of the Supreme Court, they go up to 70, and the Chief Justice. So that has been established by law. And the understanding, I think, was that to become a judge, for someone to become a judge, they come in the later part of their career. And for the country to get some value from that, from the experience and all that, retirement at 60 may not be as beneficial. For example, when does a person become, at what age do we get people appointed to the Supreme Court, to Court of Appeal, to High Court and all this and that, but this has been set up in the law, and that is it for now. So we cannot debate much about that for now, but otherwise that exemption has been provided in the law.
Yes, good morning. This is Paul.
Paul.
I wanted you just also to comment about early retirement,
Yes,
different
please.
versions, because we have seen only mandatory retirement.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. I think our next president will handle that, but as a precursor, I can give a brief on that. Yeah, our law provides for both mandatory retirement, which is when you clock the mandatory age, which is 60 for most public officers, apart from the judges and some of the armed forces. But it also provides for early retirement. Period of 10 years and you are 45 years or above. That is the criteria one. Hello, are you hearing me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm saying early retirement has two conditions. Condition one is you should have served for not less than 10 years, at least 10 years of continuous service, and you should be 45 years or above. Criteria number two is that you should have served for a continuous period of 20 years, regardless of your age. So those are the two conditions for one to get for early retirement. And the condition, if you want to go for early retirement, you're supposed to write to the responsible permanent secretary, who is the permanent secretary, Minister of Public Service, who is the one to accept your early retirement, and you duly qualify for your benefits when you meet those conditions.
Hello.
Yes, please. There's a Phoenix. I cannot tell the person, but yeah.
This is where Daniel.
Yeah, boy, Daniel, please.
Yeah. Now I've been hearing. I'm a health worker.
Yes,
I've
please.
been hearing a rumor about which I want to get it right from the first hand, that health workers effective, they increase their salaries. There is nobody who is supposed to request for early retirement. What can you comment about that?
That is not true. That is not true. I think the law has not changed. The law is still the same. You can still request for early retirement based on the criteria which I listed. So there's no exemption that health workers should not retire because of salary in hand. No, that is not there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We should be having the PS very shortly, but we can still have a few questions until she comes in, and then we'll have her remarks. Hello, any other questions?
No.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, please. Yes, Ronald.
Yes, this is Ronald.
Hello.
Yes, Ronald. Can I hear from Ronald, please?
Okay. Thank you, Moses. Yeah, my question is, in Uganda, can't we change from salary payment, we go to hourly rate?
We change from salary to what?
So that we employees are paid by hours worked.
Yeah.
Because since, as you say that we need to start planning early. If I'm paid hourly, I know I'll go to work from 8, let's say up to 1, so that the rest hours I'll go in my business, where I will be also getting some about doing my own things. That one will help us to effective, even government will be getting more services than, because I see many people, many employees tend to dodge work because they know at the end of the month they will be paid. But if we are paid hourly, I think that one will force us to perform better than being paid on monthly. Thank you. That is my suggestion.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Ronald. This is noted why we can't pay hourly. Of course, the current arrangement is that we work 40 hours a week. And that is why if you compute your hours, and for even those in the health sector and all that, it is still flexed, but it comes to the same, that 40 hours a week. Now, why we may not take on that arrangement is that we need to provide services. Like if you're in the health setting, you all know that our services are needed 24/7. And for those who may have the other work arrangement, by 8 to 5, we expect you to be at work to offer your services. So at the current arrangement is that we work, of course, you're trying to mean this consultants kind of arrangement whereby they're paid per hour, but I think full-time employees are not paid on hourly basis. Though the understanding is, even as a full-time employee, we expect you to work all the required hours, the 8 hours a day, the 40 hours a week, which is computed to a month. And that's why we have biometric machines. That's why we have attendant registers to ensure. And actually, I understand that for you to get your full pay by end of the month, you should have worked all the prescribed hours. And the standing order is also very clear. For those who may have worked less, the accounting officers are supposed to reduce the equivalent amount of time you spend out. So members, at this point now, I want to invite our PS to come and give us the...
Commissioner, I still have a question. Commissioner, my hand is up. I still have a question.
Evelyn, can we have you after the Madam PS's remarks? We shall still have more questions after this. Madam PS has just come in to give her opening remarks. So members, can we kindly welcome our permanent secretary, who is also the Pensions Authority, to come and give us opening remarks for these 2 days of virtual pre-retirement training. Madam PS, you're most welcome to give your opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mori Moses. Good morning, everybody. The responsible officers, heads of departments, public officers, technical officers from the Ministry of Public Service, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to this session on pre-retirement training. It is my great honor to preside over the official opening of the virtual pre-retirement training organized by the Ministry of Public Service. This initiative underscores our commitment to ensuring a smooth and informed transition of our public officers from active service to a fulfilling retirement. The importance of preparing for life after retirement cannot be overstated. In accordance with Section JE, paragraph 10 of the Uganda Public Service Standing Orders 2021, government is mandated to prepare its employees for the eventuality of retirement. Today's training is a testament of our dedication to uphold this mandate and to provide you with the necessary skills, knowledge, and attitude to navigate the post-retirement landscape effectively. This training has drawn participants from ministries, departments, agencies, and local governments. It is a comprehensive program designed in a manner to address the multifaceted aspects of retirement, focusing on key topics critical for a well-planned retirement phase. First and foremost, we will tackle the theme of demystifying retirement. Often, the thought of retirement is met with apprehension and uncertainty. This segment is designed to dispel the myths surrounding retirement and to provide you with a clear perspective on how to embrace this new chapter of life with confidence and enthusiasm. Secondly, we will delve into the exit policy and management of retirement benefits in the public service. Understanding the policies and procedures governing your retirement benefits is crucial. The segment handling that will aim to demystify the exit process, ensuring that you are well informed about the benefits that you're entitled to and how to manage them effectively. Furthermore, we'll explore savings and investment options for public officers. Financial security, as a cornerstone of retirement, ensures that you have a comfortable retirement. This session will offer valuable insights into various saving plans and investment strategies that you can consider to secure your financial future. Additionally, we will cover estate management and will writing, a part of our lives that we normally want to shy away from. Proper estate planning and having a well-written will is an essential component of ensuring that one's assets are managed according to his or her wish, and that his or her beneficiaries are taken care of after their demise. Last but not least, participants will be taken through the highlights of the Public Service Pensions Fund Act, which is the reformed public service pension scheme. Participants, I urge you to listen attentively and actively participate in all the sessions. Take full advantage of the wealth of knowledge that will be shared by our facilitators. Do not hesitate to ask questions or seek clarification on any issue that is not clear. Your proactive participation will greatly enhance your understanding and application of the topics discussed. I'm confident that this training will be highly beneficial to you because it will equip you with the necessary skills, knowledge, and attitude for effective retirement planning and preparation of our officers and retirees. By implementing the insights gained during the training, you'll be able to prepare yourself, the public officers, and retirees to enjoy a prosperous and fulfilling retirement. Before I end, I'd like to give you some insights which I have gathered from this position here. To prepare for retirement is not only about acquiring the knowledge, but it's also a mindset. There are officers who are refusing to vacate institutions and institutional houses because mentally, psychologically, they did not envisage themselves leaving. They have listened to all the information, they have had facilities before themselves, and 3 months down the road, they are in absolute denial. I urge you, as you listen to this training, prepare mentally and psychologically that there is life outside formal employment by government. If you can accept that, you'll have a more productive life and live long after. Those who haven't prepared well also die early. We'd call it a premature death because of extreme stress and depression. Please note, it is not the end of the world. Beyond the formal employment in government, there is so much more to do in terms of your own well-being, but also your contribution to society and embracing the community around you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a fruitful training and successful retirement planning. I now take the singular honor to declare the 2-day virtual training on pre-retirement officially open. I say this for God and my country. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Madam PS, for your opening remarks. I think I'll clap on behalf of everyone since they will not be able to clap because their mics are mute, but thanks for your passion for retirement and the welfare of the retirees and your words of wisdom you shared with them. I believe we all take this and we shall put this into practice. Participants, those are the remarks from the PS. Because of her busy schedule, she may have to move to other assignments, but I request that we continue with engagements. And for that, now we are going to go. Is Evelyn still there? Evelyn had a burning question before Madam PS came in. Evelyn? Well, members, maybe Evelyn can come in much later now if she's not there. So I am now requesting, we're going to go to our next presentation, which is about exit policy and management of terminal benefits in the Ugandan public service. And members, we want to also take you through the exit policy and how to manage terminal benefits. And as I noted earlier, please take note of your questions. We shall be able to respond to all your questions once the 3 sessions for today are done. We're now on our 2nd session, but also kindly, you can also drop some questions in the message box. In the chat box, we will take note of that and respond to each and every question that you raise. Thank you very much. Now, at this point, allow me to invite Mr. Joseph Balukudembe, who is our Senior Human Resource Officer and also in the Compensation Department, Ministry of Public Service, to come and take us through the presentation on exit policy and management of terminal benefits. Over to you, Joseph. You're most welcome. Joseph?
Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, over to you, please. Well, I've introduced you, so the members are now eagerly waiting to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. And thank you, Maureen, for the wonderful overview. And thank you, Madam Pierce, for the opening remarks. Colleagues, friends, and all participants in this training, you're most welcome. Like I've been introduced, my name is Joseph Balukudembe. I work with the Ministry of Public Service as a Senior Human Resource Officer in the Department of Compensation. So today, I'll be sharing on the topic of exit policy and benefits in the Uganda Public Service. As a way of presentation outline, I'll give a very brief introduction, and we shall have some features of the public service pension scheme. Then we shall look at the various modes of exiting the public service. And we shall also look at the requirements for processing of terminal benefits. And then we shall have the formulas for computing the retirement benefits. Then we shall also look at the policy issues that currently exist in pension governance. We shall remind ourselves of the fact that the Ministry of Public Service, in pursuance of articles of the Pensions Act, Cap 289, decentralized the management of pension beginning in 2014. After that, we shall have a conclusion, and we shall be able to listen to a few questions, comments, and then we shall go into the next presentation. So, Maureen, my colleague, has been able to demystify for us the animal code retirement, which we all acknowledge is just ahead. I don't want really to comment so much on what Madam Pierce has hinted on, that we must all know that at one moment we have to leave the service. We are not the people who started the service, and it will not end with us. So the earlier we learn that we shall all retire and begin to prepare for it, the better, because this is not going to change. And one thing that we need to really understand and appreciate is that money is a very important aspect of our lives. And like this writer said, that there is nothing so much degrading as the constant anxiety about one's means of livelihood. So, it is very important for us as public servants, as we offer service to the government, we also need to spare some time and offer services to ourselves, and use the little sources of income that we get to be able to multiply, so that at a time when we are not able to earn from government, and besides the pension that we shall be receiving, there is something else that can generate an income for us. So members, by definition, what I am referring to as an exit policy is simply a set of formal rules and procedures, can call them guidelines, that may be followed by an institution when they are saying bye-bye to their employees. And like I said, that all public servants, we join this service with the knowledge that at one moment, through any means, we shall be able to leave these offices. And good enough, our appointment in the public service are by the virtue of the Constitution. They are not by mistake. So it is constitutional that we are appointed, and the same Constitution gives us protection against unfair dismissal, unfair removal from office, but it also provides for our exit, and it sets the conditions for our exit. That's why in Article 254, it provides for pension, that all public officers who retire are entitled to a pension. And the various retirement modes or exit modes that are permissible and are possible to happen in public service. You can retire mandatorily, you can exit due to abolition of office, you can transfer to other public service, but for this, I am going to give in more details in the next few slides. And maybe just to mention and emphasize that as a public service, we are also an employer, and we follow the basic principles of employers provided for in our Employment Act. And this is that for anybody who is exiting service, you are entitled to a period of notice. That is section A or paragraph 23. And the details are provided for in the Employment Act. Members, I think one of the most, or rather the hottest topic when it comes to social protection of public servants is the issue of pension. And I just want to emphasize that our pension rights as public officers are protected in various ways. And how is this? One is that all pensioners are entitled to a lifetime pension, especially for the sick or the incapacitated. If you have been employed and then for one reason or another you fall sick or you become incapacitated, and even if you went on to normal retirement, or rather a mandatory retirement, you are entitled to a lifetime pension. And you realize that this government has really had a lot of reforms in the pension sector. Specifically, in 1994, the government introduced what we call survivor benefits. Previously, if somebody retired and passed on, that would be the end. But right now, if somebody retires, IT, can we have those people muted? If somebody retired, they are in their dependents are entitled to what we call survivor benefits. And these are paid for a period of 15 years from the date somebody exits service, either through death or retirement. And then also we need to know that pension is exempt from income tax. And also it is not subject to attachment on bankruptcy. And pension is always supposed to be changing, or what we call indexation. And how does it change? It changes based on inflation that is declared by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. But just a moment. Yes. Pension changes based on inflation that is declared the country. I know that the last time that the Ministry of Finance has been able to provide the funds to cater for indexation was in the financial year 2020-2021. But we are constantly liaising with them so that they can be able to provide these funds and pay the beneficiaries what I'm going to call a living pension. Also, in 1994, we revised the retirement age from 55 to 60 and also increased the pension fraction, or rather the rate at which pension accumulates from 1/600 to 1/500. And this ensured that pensioners get a better retirement package. And if you look across the world, most countries, almost economies, they use the average salary throughout one's employment life to determine one's pension. Some use the last salary for the last 5 years, but for us in Uganda here, we are still having one of the most generous pension schemes because, one, our pension fraction is very high, and two, we consider the last salary at retirement, which in most cases, because even by the virtue of the constitution, we can't reduce one salary. So in most cases, this is the highest salary somebody has earned in his lifetime. And it gives one of the highest replacement ratios in the world. So ladies and gentlemen, somebody earlier had asked about the various modes of retirement, early retirement, and here are the details. One, which is most common, of course, is mandatory retirement. And also, like my colleague Morina stated, it depends on which service you are in. For the UPDF officers, for obvious reasons, it ranges from 39 to 65, whereby in case, for example, you are not going to be on a certain rank at a certain age, you are free to retire, to apply for retirement. Actually, it is mandatory that you must retire. For example, you cannot have a corporal who is supposed to be on the front lines serving at the age of 50 years of age. These ones are, by that time, unless you are John Rambo, you have really weakened and you cannot do the arduous task of shooting the gun. So that's how their retirements are staggered. And for us in the traditional public service and the police, it is 60 years of age, and it was revised in 1994. My colleague has told you already that in some countries, it is as high as 68. And one of the reasons some countries have a very high retirement age and they keep increasing it sometimes by months, it is because they have a very big challenge of affordability of their pension schemes. So they keep postponing the time when they're supposed to pay their pensioners. That's why they keep on increasing the retirement ages. For the judges, it is between 65 and then 70. Then we have what we call early retirement. There are various types of items that I want to talk about. There is early retirement on restructuring or abolition of office, divestiture. And this, we are saying that it attracts an additional 25% of pension. And then we have the early retirement that Commissioner Moses has talked about for those who have served for a minimum of 10 years and at that time are 45 years of age and above. And then the other option is if you have served for 20 consecutive years, regardless of your age, you can also apply for a retirement, and it's granted only by the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Public Service. And maybe what has happened is that for now, all cases of early retirement, this one of 10 and 20 years, you can only apply through the system of XCM. And you don't do so beyond 30th of September. So for those of you who wish to go for early retirement, or who wished to go for retirement next financial year effective 1st July 2026, it is now unfortunately too late because we are already past the date of 30th September. You can only try again next financial year to apply for this mode of retirement. And then we have retirement on medical grounds. This is also a form of early retirement, and this is mainly due to illness or an injury whereby the affected public officer is no longer able to offer service to government. And this is always granted still by the appointing authority, that's the different service commissions, on recommendation of the medical boards. We are living in a very good time whereby these medical boards have been decentralized to the various regional referral hospitals. And I think we have right now 16 in the country. It's not like those days when people used to apply only to Mulago National Referral Hospital. Now it has been decentralized. And this service has been brought closer to the people. So there are circumstances whereby somebody has sustained an injury, but this injury has been sustained while at work. And because of that injury, this person is unable to continue to offer services as he would normally. This person can apply for early retirement on medical grounds, but what accompanies this is that somebody can get additional pension depending on the level of impairment or the level of injury. And still this is determined by the medical board. And even in the system, it is configured to calculate somebody's additional pension in case the injury was clearly sustained at work or when somebody got injured while in the line of duty. And this one is always granted regardless of whether somebody is confirmed and regardless of the length of service. And still, somebody is entitled to monthly pension, even if they have not served for the minimum requirement of 10 years. We also have circumstances of marriage, in case somebody is an employee but is married, and they think, and it is true, that because of their marriage, they are not able to effectively and efficiently offer services to government. Somebody can apply for this kind of retirement, and in terms of benefits, what they get, it's a one-off payment with no monthly pension. And two, somebody who retires on marriage grounds is able to come back and rejoin service on permanent and pensionable terms, but he'll be joining as a new person. The other previous period of service is forfeited because it will have paid for in that one lump sum of payment. And the minimum qualifying time for service for qualifying for this type of retirement. And if in circumstance that somebody dies in service, we also acknowledge that as a form of exit, although we don't give permission for this one. This one is only the law that grants permission. What we do as a service is that we pay death gratuity. And if somebody has served for 10 years and above, their survivors, their beneficiaries also are paid what we call survivor benefits. But this is only true if the person died after the reform of 1994 that introduced survivor benefits. For cases whereby the officers passed on prior to the reform of 1994, there is no claim for survivor benefits. There is no valid claim for that. This only applies to people whose serving officers or parents died after the reform was introduced in 1994. And the survivor benefits are paid for 15 years from the date of death or from the date of retirement, whichever is earlier. We are aware that the public service provides for employment of people or persons on contract. And also, it follows that when their contract expires, they are also deemed to have exited the service. And what happens normally in these contracts, they are specified percentages of contract gratuity that are supposed to be paid out to the employees who are being contracted. And they vary from 25% to 40% of the annual income that is specified in the contract. The other mode of exit is retirement on transfer from the mainstream public service to the other public service. The ministry has the mandate to declare entities or institutions as the public service. So in case a serving public officer is offered appointment in the other public service, that is called an appointment on transfer of service. And what normally happens here is that the benefits that would have accrued to this officer in the mainstream public service are frozen up to that moment when this officer either returns to this public service or retires on permanent and pensionable terms in the other public service. Should this officer who has been transferred to the other public service be dismissed or abscond from duty, then they forfeit even the benefits that would have accrued in the previous service. So it's very important to note that if you're being transferred to the other public service, please take note. If you want to benefit from the benefits that have accrued in your previous service, you need to ensure that even in the other service, because we are the same service, you retire on pensionable circumstances. We also have circumstances whereby people are retired in public interest. This is normally a disciplinary procedure, and it follows when somebody has maybe committed an offense which may not amount to dismissal, but really the image between this person and the service has been tainted. So this person is granted retirement in public interest, but he can still go ahead and benefit, or rather earn his benefits, pension and gratuity. It's different from dismissal, whereby in case you're dismissed, you forfeit all your benefits. You forfeit all your benefits. And then the other mode of exit is leave without pay. Leave without pay is granted with the sole purpose of preserving or protecting your pensionable period, and it preserves continuity of service so that it is as if there was no break in service. And we are aware that the time you spend on leave without pay is pension qualifying but not pension earning. So when you are computing your benefits, like we are going to see in the formula ahead, that period, that length of service that person does not qualify for benefits. And also in case people go away without leave, abandonment of duty, abscondment, these make you abandon your benefits. Section 14 of the Pensions Act, in case of people who either die when they are not confirmed or the time not confirmed, the discretion is to the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Public Service, who is the pensioners' authority, to grant them a pension. Although we normally, like the Public Service Commission regulations, they advise people to submit officers for posthumous confirmation. But still, the pension authority under this section has the discretion to grant pension to unconfirmed officers. And then we have what we call ex gratia. This too is given at the discretion of His Excellency, and it's not always formula-based. It is at his own discretion. He may decide to give you 1 billion shillings, 2 billion, depending. And then severance package, regulations 24 and 28. This is paid to people, or rather to officers who have retired on retrenchment and abolition of office. And it is separate and distinct from a pension. This has a formula, and it is provided for in those regulations and the schedules that follow. And you can find it in the Pensions Act. It's provided for. And it is given in addition to the pension and the additional 25, and also the transport refund that is granted to people who retire on abolition of office. Now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to now go to the issue of what are the requirements for processing pension. What do we need when you are processing pension? One, you need to apply, especially for a retirement. You need an application letter. Although now it is done online, you need to apply, go through your accounting officer, and it will come to the Ministry of Public Service. And then we shall, depending on whether you qualify or not, the PS will grant you permission to go on early retirement. And even for those on retirement on medical grounds, you apply, as long as you have the recommendation of the medical boards to your appointing authority, which is the District of Service Commission. And in case you are in the central ministry employee, either to the Public Service Commission or the Health Service Commission, and then you'll be granted. For mandatory retirement now, we no longer require anybody to apply for mandatory retirement. It is straightforward. What can happen is that you need to notify, either of you needs to notify, because there's a practice of people forgetting their age. You forget that you were born on 30th June, and then you continue working up to December. And even your employer forgets. So there is need to remind, like I said earlier, everybody is entitled to a notice period. And if we, as employers, are keeping our records very well, we shall be able to tell that in this financial year, we are going to have 30 people retiring, and shall be able to notify them. And then definitely you need something to talk about your employment life. Letter of first appointment, confirmation, and any other letters, promotion, redesignation letters, and then the last pay slip. These are requirements, and you need to have. They are proof that actually you qualify to work in service and you are duly employed. They confirm your rank and everything. Then for this, the NS7, the Native Service 7, it's a form for bank details. This is a requirement if the retiring officer is intending to change the bank account from where he was receiving his salary. But if he's not intending to change, then there is no need for filling of this form. It is NS7, and it is found at any government office can work anywhere and you can be able to get this. If you have like 6 months retire, you need to fill these forms in case, like I said, you need to change your bank account. And then we have NS20B in case you owe any money to government. This is the form that the human resource officer is going to fill and indicate how much you need to pay government, and this money can be recovered from your pension. It's only government, by the way, that has power and authority to recover, to use your pension to recover and to get their what is due to them. No other person, no other entity, no other authority, not even the banks can recover your pension. It is only government that can take your pension and recover its own money. And then for those ones who are retiring on mandatory, you need to fill these forms, pension form 18, and they'll always be put on your pension file, your fiscal file for record purposes. And then for people employed on contract, you need to fill the form 19. And all these forms, like I said, are found at the various government offices, the districts, ministries. And in case of death, the survivors are going to have to fill the public size form 20. And for police officers and prisons, we normally accept what we call attestation papers. They understand what this means. Certificate you fill when you are joining. And estates account. Here in estates accounts, that's whereby people have to fill, it's mandatory to fill the NS7, the bank details. And then they also provide the bank statements in case they are going to change the bank statements, rather the bank account where they intend to receive money. One new pension will be 12.5 million. I also explained the issue of the severance package that is paid to people on abolition of office or retrenchment, and also the repatriation costs at the rates that you are seeing here. And we also normally provide for 6 months pay in lieu of notice. For colleagues who have relatives or friends who have retired in 1994 and then 2005 when the government was conducting retrenchment, you have read these letters and these circulars. These details are what is contained in their termination letters. And then you also, in case of any approved leave which was not taken, it is also costed and paid to the person who is departing. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to me. Now, I just want to briefly take you through how we compute pension. I know it is a simple and difficult task, but we shall go through, and then in case of questions, in case of any clarifications, you can always get back to us. But in principle, this slide is really showing us the parameters, the basic parameters that we use when we are computing pension. And just a moment, something small.
Hi, Tabon.
Yes. The present screen is showing us the basic parameters that we use when we are computing pension. Maureen has clearly defined for us what pension is and how we qualify for it. But how do we compute it? We base one on the basic salary. Then we also look at your length of service and then the pension fraction. And when it comes to length of service, for example, I've explained to you that there are certain times whereby, in case you have ever been granted either leave without pay, then that time when you on leave without pay, much as it is pension qualifying, it's not pension earning. So we do not include it in our, when we are computing length of service. We only go with the other period when you are in service. So what are the formulas? Pension is length of service, and this is normally denoted in months. For example, if you have served for 20 years, we are going to multiply 20 times 12 months, that is 240 months, times your annual salary. If you're earning monthly 10 millions, that's 120 millions. So we multiply by your annual salary, and then we divide by 500. So what we get there is your pension. And you can call it annual pension because we have used annual salary to compute it. That is your annual pension. Now, there's something that we call gratuity. Gratuity, in other words, is simply a part of your pension that you choose to commute at a rate of a third of your pension for a period of 15 years. So the Pensions Act provides that once the government has determined your pension, you have a choice either to commute it, part of it, and that proportion is normally given as a third for 15 years, meaning you can, if your pension, for example, is 12 millions a year, you can say, okay, I'm going to take a third of my 12 millions a year for the next 15 years, and I want to earn it as a lump sum at retirement. That's what commutement means. Or you can simply decide to earn your pension on a monthly basis. Once we determine it in part one, you can simply say, okay, I'm going to divide it by 12 and I'm going to earn it until 15 years and thereafter until I die. You realize that the public service, the practice has been that we normally dictate for you. We always give you a gratuity. We commute part of it and then we give you the reduced pension, which is determined in number 3. And this is really for practical reasons, but you have a choice to choose. But however, you don't have a choice to say, let me earn all my pension I was supposed to earn for the next 15 years and I earn it now. No, that is not provided for in the law. So that is the formula for reduced pension. Of course, once you have taken away a third of your pension and you enter as a gratuity, what is left is 2/3. And we get that 2/3 and then we divide it by 12 and we give you the monthly because pension is supposed to be paid periodically. And of course, these are all part of the reforms that have happened. But for those of you who are old enough and have been around for some time, remember that in the system of pension, the teacher's pension, for them, they had an option of earning a quarter of their pension and commute it. But all these have been merged, and now we have one single Pensions Act, which provides for a third. What are some of the policy issues that exist in the governance of pension? As I conclude, we need to note that there are people out there, employees who are having what we call non-pensionable appointments, and it's the only thing they have on their file. What we want to clarify is that these non-pensionable appointments can be redeemed by the appointing authority, and they become pensionable. So if an officer approaches you and then they have that non-pensionable appointment, please not tell them you don't qualify for pension. Submit the service commission and ask them to redeem this appointment letter, and then they'll redeem it. And normally, even the effective date of appointment is in that non-pension appointment. And then we have people who have 2 letters of appointment probation. This normally, from our experience, it occurs when somebody is moving from one district to another, from one service to another, and they don't declare that they have previous service. At times, it is an issue of abscondment from duty. You worked in Kazo district, but you either went for studies and then you just disappeared. And later on, you come back and then you are employed by the district. So you don't declare that you have a previous appointment, but on retirement, we see you with these 2 probation letters. Normally, what we advise, unless otherwise, is that you use the most current letter of appointment on probation. And in some circumstances, this can be regarded as abscondment, and therefore you may not be entitled to pension. So the circumstances under which you are having 2 letters of appointment on probation need to be clearly investigated to avoid cases of re-employing people who have absconded from duty. Something called revalidation, we are saying that it has no impact on the commutation. When I'm adjusting your pension, monthly pension, I don't go back to adjust your gratuity that you got 15 years ago. No. We only adjust the monthly pension that we are earning, as provided for in the Constitution, that pension is subject to changes based on the time value of money. And of course, this is it goes without saying that the constant recovery of your CPG is maintained for the 15 years. Then service under group employees, it only became pensionable in 1995. 1995 July. I have seen people submitting here nursing assistants, and they are telling us that their first date of appointment is 1985. This is not true. The earliest pensionable time for nursing assistants and other group employees is 1st July 1995. So let us take note of this. Let's not impose a burden on government, which is not supposed to be. I mean, this is a law that has been passed. And then also to clarify that service under age is not pensionable. Neither is service beyond 60 years of age for the members in the traditional or the mainstream public service. And in case of salary that has been earned beyond death or beyond retirement, this can be recovered. You know, this is government money. When you fill the NS20, it is money that can be recovered. It is recoverable, and it should be recoverable. And on re-employment of pensioners, if you've retired, there are circumstances under which people can be re-employed on a contract in case of they having special skills which cannot be found anywhere else. But in the circumstances whereby you are the head of the department, there is a substantive deputy head, and then you say I have very special skills, maybe I negotiate very well, usually they are not substantial, somebody is qualified, deputy head of department, let them be able to come and replace you who has retired. And then employment of people of 50 years and above, this should only be on contract, because the standing orders are very clear that you shouldn't employ somebody who at the time of joining service cannot make 10 years in service to qualify for a pension. So for anybody who is 50 years and above at the date of appointment, should only be appointed on a contract. From 2014, I think we have decentralized pension management. We wanted to bring services close to the people and maintain a clean payroll, because the people who have been employing this person are the people who know this person best, and they can serve them better. And what we decentralized essentially was the budgeting and the planning, and then processing and paying for the pension. So we wish to really to entry at you people in the districts, in the local governments, to really handle these processes very well. And because we still keep receiving people here in public service, I want my payment, I want my pension has not been paid. We really want to have this really stop. So for any technical guidance, please, we urge you to ask us so that you are ably in position to offer these services to the people, so that we decongest this area. And progress so far, we have really been able to decentralize to all MDAs. All MDAs are now fully managing pension as envisaged in the process of decentralization of management of pension. And of course, there are so many benefits that have been reported. There's now a very quick turnaround time in provision of pension. And people no longer have to spend a lot of money to count public service, although we still have a few cases. And when you look at some, it is an issue of, I don't know how to put it, but just want to remind everybody that the Pensions Act gives the PS the powers to decentralize some of her powers to any entity to manage pension. So it goes without saying that if the PS notices that any entity is not managing pension very well, the same PS can use the same provision to withdraw that power. So let us not be examples, and let us serve diligently. In case of technical support, the ministry has a lot of technical officers who can provide this support so that the people are served very well. Now, as I conclude in a few minutes, just remind ourselves that in this process of decentralization, what is my role to ensure that this process is handled smoothly and efficiently? And the roles are to like 4 units. There's the individual, the entity, Minister of Public Service, and then the Minister of Finance. And these are the roles. For you as the staff, make sure that you have all the information about you. Provide all the information, initial application in terms of retirement, make sure that all those forms are filled, and then submit them to HR in the case of anything. Then at the end of the day, you must continue filling life certificates. The votes, like I said, they plan, they budget, and they make the assumptions, and for us to provide the money. And then they are supposed to process the retirement benefits. They do master verification of the payroll because they still master account. And then they pay these benefits, and then updating pension records as deemed necessary, and reporting and accounting, and also conducting pre and post-retirement trainings. Then for us as a ministry, we still have something to do. We grant requests for early retirement and retirement on magic grounds. And like I said, the PS has the authority to vary any provision or conditions of the Pensions Act. And then also guiding on interpretation of the provisions of the Pensions Act, and issuing guidelines on how this is supposed to be done. And we also manage the pension payroll database, and also the systems that we use to pay pension. and functional and technical support towards the Ministry of Finance. Definitely, they provide funds. Once we put in our request, they always do the funds. And as a way forward, this has been echoed several times. The best time to start thinking about your retirement is before your boss does. And the advice to us is to ensure that all our career records are consistent and correct. And remember to exit the public service through pensionable circumstances in order for you to protect your pension rights that you have gained. And just a sad reminder that pension benefits may not be sufficient, so you need to think about complementary income. And for us, just to reiterate that we are still very willing to support you, and we are committed to ensuring that the retired public officers live a decent life through provision of adequate, timely, and affordable benefits. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to me. I remain Joseph Balikudembe.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for your wonderful presentation. A round of applause for you. I'll clap on behalf of everyone. I can see some claps there. That is really good. Members, we are going into our last presentation of the day, and I am requesting that we should first finish our presentation, then we shall go to plenary where we shall have the questions, and we'll also respond. So now at this point, I want to go take us through the Public Service Pension Fund 2025. Of course, there were some questions already which were coming in, so we'll be able to respond to these questions. But as we are also, I'm also sure that before we even reach some of you may have your questions answered way before we get there. So for those who have just logged in, my name is Amori Moses Sebi. Amori Moses Sebi. I'm an Assistant Commissioner, Human Resource Management at the Ministry of Public Service in charge of pensions management. You're most welcome, and we'll start this, but just some small announcement that for those who have logged in, kindly use your official names and share your institution, because we want to know who has attended and all this for the reports and all that. So Public Service Pension Fund is one of the new acts of Parliament, which was ascended to by the President in this year, May this year. And it is all about reforming the pension scheme, as we shall see. A few details about my presentation. Objectives of the presentation is to highlight the features of the current Public Service Pension Fund and rationale for reform. We shall start by seeing what we are currently having and why we need to reform, for us to all appreciate that we needed to move to reform this. To demonstrate the reform options and design objectives, to highlight the features of the reformed Public Service Pension Scheme, to demonstrate the implications of the reform, as well as benefits of a reformed Public Service Pension Scheme, and to highlight the pension reform roadmap and implementation plan. Now, in a way of introduction, we're saying that the current Public Service Pension Scheme that we're operating is an unfunded and non-contributory scheme that is funded through government budget from the Consolidated Fund. All our pensioners currently who are under the current scheme are getting funding from the Consolidated Fund. So it's non-contributory. No one makes any contribution for the scheme, for the funds they get. So that's what we're operating currently. This scheme was established in 1946 by the colonial administration to cater for the retirement and social security needs of employees in public service. So, the current scheme we're having started way before independence. Provision of pension to public servants is enshrined in Article 254, subsection 1, 2, 3 of the Constitution. The Public Service Pension Act provides the rules for the scheme. So the pension fund is both provided in law, is both provided by the Constitution, but also there's an act of Parliament, the Pensions Act, which provides for this. So as we look at pension, we should know that it is a legal payment provided for by law. So what are the parameters of the current scheme. One, it's an unfunded defined benefit scheme then enshrined. The scheme rules were revised in 1993, 1994, 1996, and latest was 2018. We're talking about the current scheme. So it's a direct benefit scheme. And direct benefit scheme means that it is managed by a formula. Benefits are computed using a formula, as we'll see later. Contributions are non-contributory. Government has been making all contributions for payment for pensions. No member has ever got a deduction for their pensions under the public service pension scheme. And then, as Joseph told you, it allows for early retirement at 45 years plus 10 years of service, continuous service, and your retirement, your benefits are till death, or with your 20 years, regardless of your age. The qualifying period for pension is 10 years. And that's why some of you will see that for you to be appointed under the permanent and pension basis, you should be below 50, on the understanding that you need 10 years to qualify. So that's the reason why we don't employ those above 50 on permanent pension buffer terms. The accrual rate is 2.4, representing a fraction of 1 out of 500. And for those who have been dealing with these particular HRs, you will see that in our formula, and that's the basis. So the accrual rate is 2.4. Maximum replacement rate, there's none. Replacement rate was initially capped at 87%, but now it's as high as 100%. Replacement rate simply means what is the maximum, what amount of pension are you going to earn compared to your salary? So initially there was a cap at 87% that you couldn't earn more than 87% of your salary in form of a pension. That was capped. But this was challenged in court and removed now. There is no cap. What are the measures? Last basic pay. As Joseph also told you, government is quite generous that when they're computing your pension, they're looking at your last payment. If you joined as a classroom teacher, grade 3 teacher, and you retire as a DEO, they will look at your salary of DEO, not the one of a classroom teacher, H and all that. So that's another parameter we'll use. Indexation. Pension has been indexed to wage up to 2018, but from 2018 it was changed to inflation, to price, meaning that we look at inflation and the pensions are just according to inflation rate. And there is no minimum monthly pension, no minimum monthly or maximum. Currently, we have people earning as low as 5,000 as pension, and also some outside people earning as high as 26 million as pension. So there's no minimum and maximum. So where's the problem? Now, the current pension scheme poses a problem. The first problem is unfair and inequitable pension scheme to the general population. Benefits range from 5,000 per month to 26 million per month. Some judges are getting up to 26 million, and someone is getting 5,000, all from the consolidated fund. So this is the unfairness of the scheme. So pension and gratuity budget accounts for 0.73% of GDP, yet only 0.21% of the population are covered. What does this mean? That of our general population, Uganda's population now estimated to be about 45.9 million people. But of these, 0.21% are pensioners, meaning the rest are not pensioners. So that is one of the unfairness of the current scheme. Two, affordability with respect to finance capacity on the economy resulting from into budget shortfalls and ultimately non-payment or delayed payment of benefits. We have growing requests for pension supplementary funding over the years. Pension supplementary request in financial 2022-23 alone was 31% of the appropriated budget. What does this mean? This means that in 2022-23, what was appropriated for all entities that's pension was inadequate by 31% of the budget itself. Meaning that the budget was provided was not enough. And what does this mean? We get, as I told you, the current scheme, we get money from the consolidated fund to pay pension. And every government project, be it roads, be it security, be it agriculture, all get money from the consolidated fund. Now, this poses a challenge that sometimes may not be affordable, That's why you see when even people enter given budgets, most of them will report that the budget is inadequate. Now, pension and gratuity budget for 2023-24 is 1.4 trillion. This is up from 420 billion about 10 years ago, less than 20 years ago. In 2016-17, our pension budget was 420 billion, which is half a trillion, less than half a trillion. But now we are at about 1.5 trillion shillings as our pay. So this is the rate of growth at which pension is growing. And this simply means that if no alternative is got and the scheme is not reformed, we shall reach a level where government will not afford to pay pensions. And with the current pay increments, which is being administered in a phased manner, we run a risk of not being able to afford a pension. 3, sustainability caused by parametrics and reforms and other factors such as reforms, growing size of the public service, and longevity. We have a high replacement rate due to the high accrual factor of 2.4. It's formula-based at retirement. Longevity in retirement. Retirement age used to be 55, and longevity was 15 years, meaning that someone will retire at 55, and their pension will be up to about 70 because the life expectancy, then the longevity will be there. That was the life expectancy of a pensioner. But these are since risen now. The longevity of a pension has risen to 19 years. And remember, pension age is now 60. What this means is that a pension on average will live for 19 years, meaning that government will be under obligation to pay pension up to when they're 79. So this is the sustainability questions we're talking about. Then implicit pension liabilities for the pre-reform period steadily growing. Our figures here. What does this mean? These are the arrears that we have to pay. As we are reforming the pension scheme, we are still aware that government has obligations. We have arrears in 2018, 19, 23, 24, and all that, and the figures are there. Then scope limitation, entitlement to pension under the scheme under the current scheme is not guaranteed. What do I mean here? Much as our pension is formula-based, at retirement, when you clock 60, HR will calculate your pension and you will know what you're supposed to get. However, getting that is not a guarantee. It now comes to what does the consolidated fund have? What is the growth of the economy? Now, there are competing priorities on the consolidated fund. And for Ministry of Finance must allocate some money to handle pensions, just as it has to allocate money to handle all the other projects of government. So meaning that there could be a time whereby our pension liability may be bigger than what the consolidated fund can afford, taking into the consideration the competing priorities. So that's another challenge of the current scheme. 5 is the governance issues characterized by non-payments, delays, and extortions. Over and again, we've heard about many people have retired and they have not got their pensions. People talk of years without getting their pensions. Poor records management, accumulation of arrears, loss of pension funds. We've had scams. We've had scams of pensions and all this in this country. So that's some of the problems we have with this current scheme. Number 6 is growing size of the workforce and increasing public expenditure on wage, pensions, which presents unfairness to the population. Wage has grown from 220 billion in 1996. That's the money government needed to pay wage in 1996, only 220 billion. As I talk now, our wage budget has grown from 220 to 8.5 trillion shillings. And remember, this 8.5 trillion shillings is only with a few sections of the workforce already enhanced. Majority of people are not enhanced. So what will be the size of the wage bill when everyone is enhanced? So these are the potential problems we are seeing if we continue implementing pension under the current scheme. So what are the types of pension plans? So this was just for you to appreciate the problem where we're coming and what made the Ministry of Public Service and the government in general to think of changing the reforming the pension scheme. So there are literally 3 types of pension plans, if I may say. One is what we call the defined benefit pension plan. Examples of the defined benefit pension plan is the unfunded or pay-go system where we are implementing. As I said, a defined benefit is basically a formula-based pension payment system, whereby when you qualify for your pension, like when you retire, your pension is defined using a formula. That is defined benefit. So it means the unfunded, but even the funded, what we're proposing now in the public service pension fund is still going to be formula based. So the new scheme is not going to change the formula, but you still have to access your pension using a formula, as we shall see in our second presentation. Well, another type of pension plan is called the defined contribution pension plan. An example is NSSF. I think we all know about NSSF, but our pension plan, once implemented, is not going to operate like NSSF. We have a few similarities with NSSF because we're going to contribute money, these monies are going to be invested. But for NSSF, there's a direct link between you and what the contribution you've made. Means that what you've contributed is what you get, plus the interest that may accrue, the dividends that you get. But also, again, if NSSF makes a loss and all that, as members, you also bear the loss. But for us, in our defined benefit scheme, our pension access will be through a formula, and government is the sponsor of this scheme, meaning that if there's any deficit, then government will come in to handle the deficit. But we don't anticipate that. And then the third plan is the risk sharing pension plan. This is implemented by most. This is more of a hybrid, combines both the defined benefits and a defined contribution scheme. Let me take you a few demographic, basic demographic and economic projections as of 2024, when the scheme was being reformed. Uganda's population is estimated to be at 45.9%, and the average annual population growth rate is 2.9, meaning that in 2050, in the next 25 years, Uganda's population is expected to be 100 million. GDP projection, 57.4 trillion. Domestic revenue, 31.9 trillion. Domestic annual economic growth rate is 5.3. Wage growth rate in the last 4 years is 42%. And average wage growth rate is 5.25%. And this is lower because not everyone has got the enhancement yet. So the wage bill now, this financial, our wage bill is 8.55 trillion shillings, and our pension budget is 1.4 trillion shillings. So pension and gratuity as a proportion of GDP is 17.3%, meaning that of the entire GDP of the country, 17.3% is taken up in pension. And if you look at pension, wage, and gratuity as a proportion of domestic revenue, it's 31.19%. What that means is, of the monies that revenue collects as domestic revenue, 31.19% is spent on paying salaries, pensions, and gratuity. And yet the dependence ratio is 0.98%, less than 1%. In simple terms, what this means is that as a workforce in the Ugandan public service, we're less than 1% of the total population of Uganda. But we're taking 31.19% of the money collected, meaning that everyone in Uganda contributes to domestic revenue. However, 1% of this population takes 31%. That's the unfairness I was talking about, if you look at it from that perspective. So that's what has called for reforms of this scheme. So members, as we go for the reforms, I want us to look at what are the major reforms, what is mainly changing. And I think one of the key questions we have been getting from most of the people is, they always ask us, why are we reforming and what is being reformed? So I think I've tackled the reason of why we're reforming, but now we're going to what are the major reforms? What is embedded in this reform? So the outline there, one of the key reforms is governance, institutional reform. With the public service pension fund, it's going to establish the establishment of a fund, public service pension fund, which is separate from the sponsor. Now, the public service pension fund is going to be independent from government. It is going to be run by a board of trustees, which shall be appointed, but they will be very independent from government. So unlike the current scheme, governance will be handled by establishing an independent scheme, an independent fund. So the fund is not going to be under public service, the Ministry of Public Service, as many people think, not under Ministry of Finance, but it's going to be independent. Number two is pre-funding, introduction of contributions. Now, the new scheme is introducing, as we said, now going to be a contributory scheme. Now, this contributory scheme means that every public officer is going to make a contribution of 5% of their salary. 5% of your salary, you make it as your contribution, and government, as your employer, will make 10%. And I think for those who know about NSF, this is similar to what NSF is also doing, that, meaning that by every month, you make 15% of your salary in terms of your contribution to the fund. Of the 15%, 5% will come from your salary, and 10% will be given by your employer, who for this case is government. So government will contribute 10% of your salary, and this will go to the fund. And then another thing is, another aspect of the reform is guaranteed benefits in all circumstances and introduction of new benefits, in, like, for example, refund of contributions. Dear participants, were all aware, under the new scheme, under the current scheme of pension, you can lose all your benefits if you don't retire under pensionable circumstances. What this means is that if, for example, you have a disciplinary issue on the eve of your retirement and you're dismissed from service, you forfeit all your benefits. You will not be entitled to a pension under the new scheme. But under the proposed, not even proposed, under the new scheme, under the Public Service Pension Fund, you're being guaranteed your benefits under all circumstances. What we are saying is, no matter how you exit service, you'll be entitled to your benefits. How are you entitled to? First of all, at the onset of this new pension fund, everyone, all your pre-reform benefits will be computed, and government will issue what they call a retirement bond. And this retirement bond will be mature when you retire. And again, when we start the new pension scheme, the money which you're contributing are also going to be taken note of. Meaning that if you retired, if you're going to leave service under any circumstance which may not necessarily be under the current pensionable scheme, you will still be entitled to a refund of all the contributions you made. Meaning that records are going to be kept. Person A, assuming you still get dismissed on the eve of your retirement, you will still be entitled to get your full package. You get all your pension computed under the former scheme, the retirement bond, and again, all the monies which you contributed will be refunded to you. So, yeah, so that is again another aspect of this reform, that we are now going to guarantee that once you retire, you're still entitled to your benefits. So no one's going to say that you retired under this plan sense, you're not going to get. No, that is going to stop. Another aspect, another major reform is the introduction of minimum pension to address adequacy issues. I told you earlier that currently in our pensions payroll, the minimum pensioner gets 5,000 shillings per month. This is because our current scheme has no minimum pension provision, meaning that some are getting as low as 5,000. And if you really in this economy, what can 5,000 shillings do for you? So one of the reforms we have introduced under this under the Public Service Pension Fund is introduction of minimum pension, meaning that when you retire and we compute your pension, we expect your pension to be at least 25% of your current wage. What does this mean? If your salary at the moment is 1 million shillings, when you retire, we expect you reasonably, the least amount of money you should get as a pension should be 25%, which is 250,000. So this means that with the introduction of the minimum pension, if the formula, after computing the formula, the benefits, if what you're supposed to get is going to be less than that, then this will be automatically adjusted to 1/3. So we're creating a minimum pension that no one should earn less than 25% of what they're earning as salary. When you transit from salary to pension, we now protect that there's a minimum pension, which will not be less than 25%. So that's another new reform we're doing. And then periodic review of pensions, indexation based on performance of the pension fund as declared by the Board of Trustees of the fund. Now, the question is, what will happen to the money which you're going to contribute? We all know this is a contributory scheme, so we're going to give money to the fund. But the fund is not going to see to the money, they're also going to invest the money, just like NSSF does. They're going to invest these monies And when you invest, we all expect that we get returns. So if there, based on the returns which will be declared by the board of trustees, pension will be annexed or adjusted accordingly. Meaning that the money which are going to be made from this fund are going to be used to adjust pension, because we all know money loses value over time. So a pensioner who is getting 200,000 now, in 20 years, the 200 will not do much as it is doing now. So indexation will still be there, but based on the performance of the fund. Number 6, there will be provision for optional membership for government agencies, departments, boards, and commissions. This increased membership. So I also provide for that. Revision of the pension formula. As you know, currently, our pension formula, our base is 500. That's why when you compute length of service multiplied by salary at retirement over 500. And this gives you formula of 2.4. But we're saying, under the new scheme, this is being revised to 2.0. Now, our denominator is going to change to 600. This was a denominator before, it was revised, but now, under the new scheme, it's again coming back to 600, 1 out of 600, or an accurate rate of 2.0. Number 8 is preservation of the accrued benefits of the pre-reform period. Pre-reform period is what is the benefit you have before the pension is reformed. So what we are saying here is that when we enter the new scheme, what government will do is, government will first of all get an actuary. An actuary is a person who can come and compute your current benefits and look at what your benefits now will be when you reach retirement. So they make that projection. They look at what your benefits are likely to be in maybe 10, 15, 20 years. So once that is done, they will issue what they call a retirement bond. So this retirement bond will be issued, and the retirement bond will indicate clearly what your pension liability in the pre-reform is. And this will be issued, and this will be actualized by the fund when you retire, meaning that when you reach your retirement, the fund will now get this funding from Bank of Uganda. When that bond matures, it's when you actually retire. And this will be added to the current one, and based on the formula, you will be paid your pension as of when you retire. So we are preserving. So there's been some fear. People think that they're going to lose their benefits deserved under when the pension was not yet reformed. But this is just to confirm to you that your accrued benefits for the pre-reform period are going to be preserved. No one's going to lose any single money. Number 9, management of all retirement benefits in public sector will be by the fund, no parallel system. So there will be no parallel system of pensions. We shall only have this managed by the fund. However, I want to clarify something here, that once we start implementing the Public Service Pension Fund Act, or when we reform, when we start implementing the reform, those who are left with 5 years to retire will have an option of either joining the new scheme or remain in the old scheme. Those with less than 5 years to retire have that option, but for those who have more than 5 years to serve, those who will be less than 55 years, you all have to transit to the new public pension fund. So that is the kind of arrangement that. So we shall have to run. So meaning that when the public pension fund starts, we shall still continue on the old scheme for those who retired already, or those who are left with less than 5 years. Because remember, our colleagues who have retired, they retired under a non-contributory arrangement, so they cannot be transited to the pension fund where it is contributory. So government will continue to provide resources to manage that. However, we believe this will be reducing, and at some point, the old scheme will have to stop when we pay the last pension under the current scheme, who will remain in the current scheme, and at some point, everyone will be on the new scheme. So what this means is that the old scheme, people will be reducing, people on the old scheme will be reducing, and at some point it will stop when the last pension under the current scheme will exit. So that is those are some of the major reforms for this. However, there also additionally management of the fund by board of trustees. I talked about this, guaranteeing pension. So guaranteeing pensions is another thing we're going to have there. As I said, that we should not worry. Many people think that their pensions will be affected. They may not get pension, but actually this reform is intended for you to get your pension. Indexation, as I said, according to performance. And then members, we always get this question. I also want to really clarify that when we start implementing this reform, when we start deductions, government has committed to give a compensatory salary increment of 5% in the year of inception to ensure that employees remain in the same pay levels. What do I mean here? Many people are worried that when they start deducting the money, Martha's government will provide the 10%, but when they deduct the 5% from their salary is going to go down. But we are saying no. Government has committed to adjusting everyone who's going on the scheme. Your salary will be adjusted by 5%. So your contribution 5% will come from the adjusted salary. I don't want to call it a salary increment, but just to assure you that the deduction will not have any impact on your net. And this is a parallel arrangement from the enhancement of salary. Many people think that this is the salary government has always planned. Sometimes people pose the question that you've told us to increase our salary, now you've increased by 5%, you're taking it away. No, this one is just a cushion. This arrangement is to ensure that no one has a lower salary than before the reform. I hope that is clear, but I just want to clarify because that's one of the commonest questions we get. So the formula shall be retained under the proposed model. The only difference is that the denominator will change from 500 to 600. Guaranteed pension and a fully funded defined benefit scheme till death. Timely payment of retirement benefits to the retirees as funds shall be readily available. Now, we shall not tag our pension payment to what the consolidated fund provides. Remember, we shall have a fund. So it's just about when you're due for retirement, the fund will simply release your money. The money will be readily available. It will not depend on the growth of the economy and other parameters as before. And then there's a presentation of Board of Trustees promote transparency, good governance, accountability of the public service pension scheme. This ensures proper check and balance. So there's a Board of Trustees which will be appointed by the minister to run the affairs of the scheme. And because of this, we believe that there will be more transparency, good governance. And this represents from a number of representatives. Finance will be represented, public service will be represented, and a number of others. Even the labor unions will have representatives on this. Safety of the members' benefits. As I said, we expect this to be totally safe. So what are the benefits from government? Predictable funding of pensions and other retirement obligations by government and addresses the risk of not paying pensions for its workers. As Joseph told you, there are countries where they find that their retirement obligation is too high, that sometimes they start increasing the age of retirement. Like you clock 60, you're supposed to get your money, but government doesn't have the money. Then government tells you, please work for another 5 years because they are not ready for paying your benefits. But we say with this pension fund, it will be predictable. So we'll not have a risk of pension not being paid due to government funding and all that. This will not happen. 2, the risk of fiscal burden, reduce fiscal burden associated with the current unfunded pension scheme. Of course, as I say that we all got the consolidated fund for all government projects. But once this is done, we shall relieve government of this burden, whereby we shall be funding our own pension through our contributions and employers' contributions. Availability of increased supply of funds which will be available for government to borrow from. We all know government from time to time borrows money from commercial banks, from NSSF, from all this and that. And borrowing money from the private sector is very expensive for government. However, once our pension fund comes on table, we shall make available to government money they can borrow at any interest, and this will also be good for government and since government will also pay with interest, it will also be good for the fund members as well. Improve confidence and trust in the social protection scheme which government is spearheading. I know one of the challenges now, people, when I retire, will I get my benefits? Because you hear stories of someone who has retired 5 years and not accessed, that worries a lot of people. But what they're saying that we're going to improve this trust and confidence, that once we reform this scheme, your monies will be readily available when you retire. We expect that the day you retire is the day you get your benefits. Fiscal sustainability means government can now concentrate on other productive sectors of the we shall no longer be a burden to them. They will not think about us because already catered for. So what are the benefits of the economy? Increase saving the economy, which helps to address the saving investment gap. We all know for you to invest, you must save. So this pension will be able to help the economy, that investment will be able to take place. Increase supply of long-term capital to the economy to finance investments. Pension funds provide a good alternative, especially commercial loans that is funding long-term projects. This will help to address the mismatch between using short-term demand deposit to fund long-term investments. The supply of pension capital will also support sustainability and productivity of the private businesses and therefore continue to high economic growth. Deepen financial inclusion in the economy. I know the older people are one of the people who are most affected, most in poverty, but we believe with this pension fund, the old will be able to access, particularly those who will be under this fund will be able to have money, and this is good for the economy. So what are the financial implications of this reform and the financing strategies? One, government shall continue to have constitutional obligations to offer pensions to civil servants. We have got certificate of financial implication. So what are the costs being handled currently? These are categorized into 5. Government will continue to meet the current pensions obligation. Our fund will not meet pension arrear obligations and all that. Government will be responsible for meeting that. So any unpaid pension arrears from the current scheme will be paid by government. This will not be paid by the fund. Government has also additionally committed to provide startup fund for the fund for 3 years, this being the first year. So this year we're implementing what we call the pre-reform activities, this fully funded by government. Next year, we shall have some skeleton staff seconded to start the fund. We shall have the board of trustees. And also on the last year, the 3rd year, we shall still have the pension. We shall still have funding from government. But after the 3 years, the fund will now supposed to be self-sustaining. And this means that government will now stop funding the pension fund. So the fund will be my contribution, your contribution, the 5% and the 10%. But the stopping funding doesn't mean government will stop giving 10%. Government still has an obligation to continuously give the 10%. But what they'll stop funding is now giving direct support to the fund in terms of salary, operational costs, and all this and that. Accrued pension rights, yeah. As I said, all your benefits in the reform period will be financed by government because this was an arrangement where government was fully funding. Contributions under the reformed mean that government also will continue to pay the 10% towards your contribution. So government shall meet the cost of starting up the fund for 2-3 years, as I've said. This year, government will provide 5.1 billion as a to implement the pre-reform activities. Next year, there's an estimated budget of about 15 billion to cover capital expenditure, wage and non-wage recurring costs. And again, also in the last year, that's also going to be done. Then after that, we expect the fund will be self-sustaining and be able to meet all its costs. So what are the current pension gratuity obligations? As I told you, currently we have 97,695 pensioners on the payroll, having an annual pension obligation of 803,286,166,000 and gratuity of 679 million. So this means our pension obligation now for this year is 1.4 trillion shillings, as detailed there. And based on the mortality established by the accrual evaluation, pension liability for the past service estimated at 9.8 trillion shillings. This is expected to be discharged in the year 2086-2087, if the scheme is reformed in 2026-27. So this is a long-term thing, meaning that government will continue to have some obligations, but this will going to be reduced with time, and at some point we shall expect that everyone will be fully on the new scheme. Once the reform is implemented, gratuity liabilities shall be made from the consolidated fund for 5 years, meaning that once we reform, government will continue to offer gratuity from the budget for 5 years, because as I told you, those who are left with 5 years can choose to remain in the old scheme. But from the 6th year, gratuity now be transitioned into the fund. And this now will be the responsibility of the fund to meet the gratuity obligations. Pension and gratuity supplementary at a request of 207 million. So billion has been already made for financial 2025-26. So the list of liabilities left with less than 5 years, that is the list. As I said, for the next 5 years, those left with 5 years or less, the obligations will be made by government, and that's the budget they will need. And finance is already aware about this and prepared to offset this when the time comes. Projected end date of the current public service pension fund, according to the accrual report of Zamara 2022, the mortality of pensioners who retire at 60 stands at 19.3. This above implies that on retirement at 60, a retiree will receive pension for close to 20 years as opposed to the current scheme's projection 15. The projection is 15 years, but because of the increased life expectancy now, a pension average lives for 20 years after retirement. Note, however, that some pensioners whose mode of retirement was abolition of office may have retired at 30 years. Such retirees will be entitled for pension for over 50 years. What this means is that if your office was abolished, then you leave work at 30. But still, because there's an abolition, you're entitled to your benefits. So mean that you'll be entitled to your pension for over 50 years, because it means you can live up to 80 and you're retired by abolition at 30. So government will pay for 50 years. Based on above analysis, the financial implication of the current retirees extends to financial 2086-87 if the form is reformed. So as I told you, if we undertake the reform, we expect the last pensioner to be paid. And of course, the law has been passed, so we expect no hindrance to the reform. Accrued pension liabilities and what are the obligations of past service? A total of 325 qualified to join the pension fund in 2026. The accrued benefits liability for these members is 22 trillion shillings for 46 years, ending 2071, 2072. What does this mean? That is the money government needs to pay off this. So you can see how the money is continuously going up. Of course, this money is not paid once, but 22 trillion. You can see our budget now for this, I think it's about 29 trillion. So just imagine using almost all our budget to pay pension and not meet other obligations, which really can cripple the economy. So except when a member dies or retires early, the first pension bond security will be affected in 5 years. So what does this mean? This means that when we reform, once we start implementing the reform, then the first bond, I did tell you that government is going to issue what they call a retirement bond. And this retirement bond shall mature on your retirement date. So we expect to pay people, the first people to be paid will come from the fund will come in 2031, 2032. That's when we expect to do this. But as I said, other people may retire through other means, and this may also make the story a little different here. So financing options and implementation, pension and gratuity estimates, I've already talked about that, 1.4 trillion. Additional budget requirement is there. And then the 5%, I told you government is going to give a salary increment to at the commencement so that people's net salaries are not affected. The schemes will be self-financed after 3 years of commencement in accordance with the provisions of the regulator. Gratuity obligations, I've also talked about what's a gratuity obligation. I gave you the breakdown. Gratuity liability, therefore, shall be the responsibility of the fund. Pension liability, governments will continue to annually allocate money for the fund for meeting the pension obligations of pensioners under the old scheme until the scheme is fully discharged. Governments will allocate annual budget to fulfill the 10% contribution obligation, contributory obligation. Governments will issue the government bonds and security in respect of the accrued benefits, and this shall be maintained by Bank of Uganda and redeemed by the fund for purpose of paying. What this means is, if you're going to retire in the year 2050, then the fund shall go and redeem your retirement bond from Bank of Uganda for the purpose of paying your benefits. In accrual equivalence shall be used to convert the redeemed lump sum into a pension and gratuity, and this be done with the help of an actuary. Summary of financial implications are there. Pension, 1.4 trillion available. This additional budget is the one for the fund operation, reform activities. So as I wind up, what are the roles of the different stakeholders Ministry of Public Service, responsibility establishment of the fund, appointment of board of trustees, which is done by the minister, approval of regulations, policy guidelines, the fund, and the pension fund, as well as supervision of the public service pension fund. Work in collaboration with the appointing authority to determine terms and conditions of service of public officers. You now know the terms and conditions will also affect the fund. So this will be done in collaboration. The Permanent Secretary Minister of Public Service is the pension authority and coordinating registration of members and collection of contributions. You remember the fund will have its own system, but we expect the two systems to be in coordination, because when someone joins, both the fund and public service information system should be tallying. Finance will continue with the monetary policy and ensuring compliance with the Financial Management Act, budget allocation, finance of the startup activities, the accrual liabilities, and then providing technical support through the board representative and supervision of the pension fund, as well as development of the investment policy of the fund. SB Uganda Regulatory Pensions Authority is also there. This is the authority which is responsible for supervising all pension funds in the country. So it's responsible for licensing, supervision, and regulation of the fund, and the trustee certification. A point to note here is that all the members to be appointed will have to be certified by the authority before they can become members, and advise the fund on several assets, including asset classes of investments and other aspects related to pension management. Capital Management Markets Authority also has a role to play, regulates the financial markets and supervise the investment of pension funds, issue licenses to pension managers, provides technical support in the development of investment policies and other matters related to investment of pension funds. Parliament of Uganda will continue to provide the oversight role of the fund through annual reports and reports of the Auditor General. Enactment of laws for the pension fund and other benefits. You know, this law was enacted by Parliament and signed into law by the President, so Parliament continue to have a role. Also, the Auditor General will continue to have annual audits of the fund directly and indirectly through appointed service providers. Ministry, department, agencies, landlord governments all have a role to play. You facilitate the registration of members of the fund, budgeting and remitting employee and employer contributions to the fund, notifying the pension fund on changes of employment. If someone has been terminated, a new person has been brought on board, change of salary, leave without pay, interdiction, all entities have a role to notify the pension fund. Filing returns on member records, collections, remittance, and other matters related to the fund. Budgeting and payment of pensions for pensioners under the past service. I want to emphasize this, that the pension role under the entity is not going to stop. The HR will still be responsible for budgeting and payment on pensions under the past service before the reform. So that function is not going away. It will still remain that the only difference is you only be budgeting for the pre-reform, those who left or who retired under the old arrangement. Managing claims of unpaid benefits from the past service, budgeting, payment, and accountability fund. Forward the applications for retirement benefits of employees leaving the service to the fund, so you also need to still do that. Implementation plan as a wind up, development of regulations, guidelines, and policies. That's what we're doing now, cleaning up of the employees' records from transition. We want every employee to go with very clean data. We still have staff who complain that dates of birth are wrong and all this. So we want to transmit everyone with very clean data, because there's implications on when they can access their money. Design and procurement of a database system which is integrated. So we're currently also trying to design a database system for managing the collections and all this. This will not be done manually, but also this system will be integrated to NIRA system, HCM system, PBS, IFMS, Bank of Uganda. All the other government systems will have to be integrated to this system for ease of exchange of information. Actual evaluation of the accrued pensions and gratuity liabilities. We're currently in the process of procuring an actuary to evaluate. And actually, the person comes and looks at all the benefits, who has what benefits, and what will the benefits be due in the due date of the payment. Capacity building of key stakeholders, also doing this. We are doing sensitization. We have been to we've been to Eastern region, Central region. We have handled central government ministries. This month, before end of this quarter, we expect to have sensitization workshops in Western Uganda and Northern Uganda. The people will be responsible to attend will be notified. Robust engagement, so we're creating awareness and sensation, but we also expect to eventually sensitize every single employee because they're actually beneficiaries of this, so they need to know. Robust change management, we also intend to have that, how we transit. We're also trying to develop an information, education, and communication strategy to inform how we shall communicate and all this. Establishment of a board of trustees of the fund, as I say, is the responsibility of the minister to nominate people which should be approved by cabinet, and they have to be certified by UBRA. Management of the public service pension fund is also in the implementation plan. So what's the way forward? Ministry departments and local governments will continue managing the current employees of the past service. Sensitization of all stakeholders, as I told you, I've been on this, we are still moving on with this. Robust management and training of stakeholders, which has been done. Drafting, enabling legislation, policies, and guidelines. It's been done. Establishment of a database management system for the fund. The team is a team coming up with this. Data cleanup and migration of employee records into the data of the fund. As we say, we don't want any garbage in the pension database. So the comprehensive data cleanup is going to be undertaken before we transit records into the pension fund. Thank you so much for listening. I hope I was able to communicate something. And I now want to take this opportunity to, first of all, thank you for being patient up to now. The numbers are still very good. I still have a good number on YouTube. We have good numbers on Zoom. So we really encourage you very, very much. And we really appreciate. So at this point, allow me now to open up the discussion. And we are now going to invite questions. And these questions are going to, you can ask a question on any of the three presentations of today, and we'll be able to respond. So we'll have about 30 minutes for that. So members, kindly, we can now start asking questions. I will request that to avoid disruptions, you raise up your hand, and Alan, who is our IT support officer here, will help in coordinating that. So you raise up your hand and he'll be able to pick you up for a question.
Could you start afresh?
Martin, yes? Yes, please go ahead with your question.
So now I don't need when you have a headset.
Hello, please ask your question, please, we're listening. Hello? The question.
Yeah, still.
Okay, Martin, your hand is up. Please, can you ask your question? Okay, Okelo Gabriel, I used to see your hand up. Okelo, can you ask your question, please? Hello? Mugabe Ivan?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
please. Go ahead.
Yes.
Mugabe.
My question is about, I needed to understand the figures you see, the one you have reflected in terms of rolling out payments and the different segments in which this will be done. I'm wondering, does it have a limitation time frame when, like, it will be, like we say, past this particular cohort of clearances will be done? Then the last question is, if someone dies, assuming I'm entitled to a pension and I die, what sort of criteria should I go through? What documents would you need? So that, of course, I'm dead. I'm looking at my beneficiaries, maybe children or my widow. You know, what would they have to show you that, okay, he died, but we have a claim so that they get that money? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mugabe. Can we have a number of questions that will respond? That is Mugabe. Okelo Gabriel, your hand is still up.
Yes. Thank you for the presentations. Actually, very educative and a very good training on this. I wanted to understand. One of the presenters talked about the the transfer of service to other public service. And he said that your pension benefits will be frozen. I wanted to know now the details of how the retirement age is managed in other institutions or other public service like universities, other agencies of the government, and then also the retirement benefits. How do they benefit from actually, how do they manage their benefit system? Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is noted. And that's noted. We'll respond. There is yes. There's pardon. Pardon. Sorry, my pronunciation may be wrong, but pardon. Can you raise the question?
Yes, I'm Akogizibwe, pardon. I work in the Department of Public Health at Mount Elizabeth University here in Fort Portal.
Please go.
I have one. I just want to thank you. I say that maybe you need to do this often, maybe every quarter, because information is power. I have been in this session since it started. So much information has been shared and it's empowering us. Please continue with it. Maybe you do every quarter. My other question is one, I worked with the local government for 15 years. Then I transferred service to MMU, this government university here. But at MMU, we do not have, okay, maybe other government universities as well. We are not pension earning, but it's pension qualifying, especially for those who transferred service. So when my 60 years clock, who will be responsible for budgeting for this pension of mine? Is it the way I was in local government or where I transferred here? Who will be responsible for budget? Which agency will be able to budget for this and then be able to pay me that pension? And then the other last one is in line with this very one. Now that we are likely to move to the new scheme, which is almost like NSSF, how then will it work out? Because now for us, the pension I only qualify is the 15 years I served before when I was in local government. Here is not pension earning, but it's question to qualify. So now the new scheme is going to work like almost like NSSF. How will it work out for my first unique cases like ours, for those who qualify with the pension in the previous scheme, not in the current times where we are serving? Otherwise, I thank you again. Please carry on with this kind of sensitizations. May God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's got. We'll take note of that. Kakuru. Can I have a question from Kakuru?
Yeah, thank you so much, Bwana Moses. This is Kakuru Javera from Karamoja region and Abiratuku district. I have two issues. One, I was looking at the current policy and the reformed policy. Where would I get a better pension and gratuity? Then number two, I'm giving you a scenario whereby someone died after 3 years of service on government payroll. How would such a person benefit? For example, I know someone who died after 3 years of poisoning, and up to now the person, the family members have not gotten justice in regard to that. So how do we address that? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Can we have Benson Jackson? Sorry, are you called Jackson Ben?
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity, and really you have presented it very well. My question is, I'm about to retire in 2 years. Which is the best advice you give me, to join a new scheme or remain in old scheme? What are the advantages and disadvantages of remaining on old scheme? You have left me a bit confused. Should I remain in the old scheme and yet have accumulated so many years of gratuity, or should I cross new scheme? What are disadvantages if I cross there? What are the advantages if I remain in old scheme is what I want to know. Then two is, can we automate these processes than moving all miles from Lira to where, to Arua, to your office, crowding there? You see people very sick and old. Can we automate so that these things become automatic switch. You reach 60 years, it's an automatic switch. You don't need to frequent your accounting officer's office. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This is noted. Barnabas, can I get 2 more questions? Then we start. Give some response, and then we have another lot. Barnabas. Okay, can I have Mr. Richard Kilberry Manano come in? Mr. Manano, over to you. Can we have your question, please?
Yes, am I heard?
Yes, very
Hello?
loud and clear.
Okay,
loud
thank you very much, Moses. I want to thank you so much for this presentation. I know you personally and your capabilities, and I think it has been very clear, and I commend you for that. But my question is on the Constitution. It is based on Article 254 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. There are 2 clauses there which I would like to refer to. The first clause is that a public officer shall, on retirement, receive such pension as is commensurate with his or her rank, salary, and length of service. I think that is very clear. The second one also makes reference to pension being exempt from tax and also being paid, taking into account the values in money. Now, when you combine those 2 articles, the issue of indexation that you talked of, that previously it was based on the basic salary, meaning that if the basic salary of a position is increased, and I want to make reference to that one of commissioners, cows, and directors, the salary was increased from 1.8 million to 12.7 million, meaning that a person who retired on 30th June 2025 with a salary of 1.8 will have his pension calculated based on 1.8 shillings, million. Then that one of who retired after 1st July will have his pension calculated on the basis of 12.7. Now, the issue of commensurate, the underlying word is commensurate to his or her rank comes in. And it also begs the question, will it be fair, constitutionally fair, for such salaries to be indexed not based on the current salary of that position? And I look at that because it has happened already that some pensioners who retired earlier on, their pension cannot be indexed or validated based on the current basic salaries. And I think, in my view, that is unfair, constitutionally unfair, and it could be subject to litigation. Thank you very much.
Mr. Manano, who really has been my boss at some point in service, thank you very much. Remember, thank you for the questions. I think we're going to have more questions, but I really want us to first respond to these questions, and then we'll have more questions coming. And my colleagues may also give a rejoinder later, but let me try to attempt to respond to the questions. I want to start with, in no particular order, let me start by responding to Mr. Manano. Richard. Yeah, I think, yeah, you're right. You quoted the Constitution, which says that public officers will get a pension which is commensurate to their rank and salary. And this is still the practice being done, I think, even now, and even continuing under the current and the future pension schemes. Pension will continue to be determined based on rank and salary retirement. This is not going to change. What has, however, changed is in 2018, the Minister of Public Service issued the statutory instrument number 3, which changed annexing pension from salary to annexing pension to inflation or price. Now, the difference here is we're talking about annexing pension for those who are already getting pension, not for those who are yet to qualify. And I'm sure, so what that means is that if you've retired and you've started getting your benefits are being computed, your pension can only be adjusted according to inflation, which rate is declared by Ministry of Finance. It will no longer be linked to the salary of those who are in service. And I've got a lot of petitions. I've personally responded to a number of them, and for commissioners, for cows, and all these other people. And I think the point here is, I think the bit of confusion is that when they say that, when the constitution made that provision, the salary pension would have been determined by rank and salary, it meant for those who are retiring. And when you retire, you start getting your benefits. The subsequent pensions will be adjusted according to inflation. So, and we have got guidance of the Attorney General on this, because we had to write to Attorney General for legal advice. And actually, the former practice of annexing pension to current salary was not established in law. There is no law that provides that pension must, for you who has retired, your pension will be indexed. But however, it was a practice being implemented. I think this was started by one of the heads of public service sometime in 1990, something, I can't recall the exact period now. And because there's a practice, for those who benefited from that practice, nothing was done. We didn't change it. But just when the minister issued the statutory instrument number 3 of 2018, now we annex pension to inflation. Finance declares an inflation figure, and all pensioners have their pension adjusted towards that. So that's the response I can give. And I think it's a matter some people are still not comfortable with, but I'm giving the position of government and also the position of Attorney General in terms of guidance. And we have been informed that some people want to go to court, and I think we will allow that to happen. And then I think if guided otherwise, we shall continue with that process. That was the response to Manano, but we expect that we still want our pensioners to get a decent pension. And then there was another question, sorry, I could not recall all the names, that was about automating processes. I want to assure you that the process will be a seamless process, fully automated. We won't expect people to travel to claim their benefits. First of all, with the system, everything will be known beforehand. You will even be informed every month the fund will get your contribution, the fund will notify you. So you know that you've got your fund, your money has been sent to the fund. This will be done. And even the fund will know all your details. Even when you're left with 6 months to retire, the fund will remind you. And the fund is also going to have regional branches. We don't want everyone to come to Kampala. We're going to have regional branches spread across the country, that if you're in Arua, you don't have to board the bus to come to Kampala to check your pension issues. You will be able to go to the pension fund office which is nearest to you. But even besides this, we also, because the fund will have a lot of your information, even some of you will get your benefits without going to the fund offices. We expect a lot of automation. People should be able to, even a lot of things will be done online and all this and that. So we're really working to reduce the steps and the manual aspects. So that is it. And then there was a question for someone who worked for 15 years with the local government and now transferred to a public university. First of all, I want to know, all public universities are currently under NSSF, apart from Makerere University, which has its own pension scheme, which is also allowed by law. But for others, now, you said you moved from a local government. The question is, who is going to manage your pension? First of all, when you move to this university, I believe they're already remitting your contributions to NSSF, because an NSSF, Mountain of the Moon, is an NSSF, so they are remitting your deductions. So when you qualify at the appropriate time, NSSF will give your contributions, your benefits as per what they collected. But again, you'll also be entitled to a pension under the old scheme from the vote you retired to. I didn't hear the district you retired from, you left from, but this will be noted. But however, I hope your leaving was clear, that you left the district to go and work for the university, and it was clear, and your appointment indicates that. The trouble we have is sometimes when people get that appointment, first of all, when they apply, the district you're working for are not aware you've applied. And when you get that job, they simply abscond. I'm not accusing you for that, but I'm just giving you a general picture. They leave the current job and simply go. So in 15 years, when you go back for your pension, this person don't know, and you find when they check your file may have noted that you absconded. So it's my polite request that when you also leave, when you transfer from the mainstream public service to the other public service, please apply through your entities, and it should be clearly known that your appointment is on transfer of service from the mainstream public service to the other public service, not an abscondment. And this will facilitate, by the time you retire, you will go back to the district where you retired, and they are responsible for budgeting. And it will be important for you to notify them, since you're not on their payroll. If you're left at about 2 years, you notify them. So that's that budgeting. And by the time your benefits are due, they'll be able to have the money. And then another question was about what happens when someone dies 3 years after joining service. Of course, Roger have told you one of the retirement modes is death. If you die, you've already retired from service. So that one is recognized, and you're also entitled to your benefits. However, so you're entitled to a death gratuity if you die in service. The only difference is for those who die in service, we shall compute your pension gratuity, and also we also compute your retirement benefits, and we pay whatever is greater. Because depending on how long you've worked, if you've worked only like 2 to 3 years, you may find that your terminal benefits may not be reasonable. So for that, government will pay you a death gratuity. But also for those who will die much, much longer after, and then your retirement benefits may be greater. So retirement benefit may be greater. So government will still pay you whichever is higher. Where do you get a better pension? Very good question. Well, I think in the interest of time, we're unable to do, but when we shall do, we are planning another state that will also for the Public Service Pension Fund Act. This will also be on the platforms of Zoom and YouTube. At that point, we shall demonstrate two scenarios. What I've tried to compress in about an hour's presentation, we normally present it in 2 days, where you clearly understand the past service, the current service, and all this. And we'll be able to show you 2 formulas. And we'll show you 2 examples of if someone remained and if someone, and particularly for those who will have to make a choice, we'll make sure that we shall organize a specific sensation for you to make that choice, because we want you to make an informed decision about that. But I don't want to bias and say this is better. The law already provides that you can make the choice. But all I can promise is that as a department in charge of pensions, we're going to have an engagement. And when we do that, kindly make sure you attend, and we shall have the 2 examples clearly demonstrated so that you make an informed decision. We don't want you to go and suffer and say you made the wrong decision. No, this will be done. Because my answer will be biased, but I don't want to bias you because you say you chose this because Moses said this, but we'll demonstrate that. Unfortunately, at the time may not be able to demonstrate. It's a bit of a presentation, but we'll do that. I think that is so I think I talked about the issue of who budgets for your gratuity in line with the decentralization of pension, payroll, and benefits. The entity you worked with last is the one responsible. And this applies for those who have moved from one entity to another. If you ever crossed an entity, it's the responsibility of the last entity you retire from who is responsible for doing that. And then there was someone said we should do this often. Yes, we're going to do that. The good news is that this is a bit cost effective. So I'll try to do it as often as possible. So I'll try to schedule another one before the end of the financial year. And from next financial, we can actually make it quarterly. And we really appreciate your input. And this is going to go a long way in informing Okay, sorry, members, we had a bit of an, but I hope I can be heard now. So if someone dies, what happens? I think I've talked about that. When you die, there is still provision for that. Even if you die on the first, assuming you've assumed due to you started work. Unfortunately, God forbid, if you die on that same day of work, you're still entitled to benefits in line with the policy on retirement. Rolling out of payments when clearances are due. Now, just to clarify that, I say that when we start implementing the reform, all of us who are still in service, active service, will be issued a retirement bond. Now, someone called Moses somewhere, maybe is retiring in 2042. What that means is that your benefits are going to be given in form of a bond, and this bond is issued. And in 1942, when you're due for retirement, the fund will go and cash this bond on your behalf, get the money of this from your behalf, and together the fund will be able to pay. But as I said, this fund is a formula-based. The benefits are formula-based, so they will still compute. So what your retirement bond will come into the fund, but the fund will still compute what is due for you, both in the past service and the current service, and they will be paid. So no one is going to lose anything, but the actualization of these retirement bonds will be dependent on when you retire, and the actuary will advise on how many people are retiring in this year, this and that, and then the fund will be able to appropriately budget. As it invests its monies, to be able to know what they need to keep in near cash, enable to easily convert it to money for those who will be retiring. We have, I think I've answered the question. We have about 12 minutes to the end. So we'll take another round of questions. But as promised, we shall stop at midday and we'll restart tomorrow. So those who will not have their questions answered today, we'll request that tomorrow you rejoin us and we start over this all over again with the new topics and more presenters. We have additional presenters from Bank of Uganda, from Nini, who are from Agenda's office tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting. So, Musoke. Sorry?
Yes, hello.
Yes, please go ahead. You're loud and clear.
Yes, thank you so much for the wonderful presentations. They've been really very insightful. My name is Chizito Ismail Musoke from Butabika National Referral Mental Hospital. Me, I would like to seek further clarification regarding employees who will have contributed to, who are likely to contribute to two different pension schemes. That is specifically those that are remaining with more than 5 years in service. How will the new pension scheme compensate or take into account their earlier years of service accumulated before the introduction of this new scheme? Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have Yada Ismail from Yumbe Regional Referral, and then Dixon after that? Yada. Sorry, Salim. Yada Salim from Yumbe. Okay, can we have Dixon for now? Yada seems not to be. Okay, Yada.
Good morning.
Ismail, please go ahead. Salim, yes. Sorry.
I have a concern as far as when it comes to addressing the issue of pension, deaths, and the salary. There are experiences that have come through where somebody dies and within the same month or the following month, the salary is stopped immediately. But there are also others where the salary continues to be quickly. I wanted to understand, after what long will a salary of the deceased be actively coming and or when it is to be stopped? And therefore, what next steps does one take as the next of kin in order to secure all these other processes for the beneficiaries out of
Thank you, Salim.
Of this
it's not it. Thank you, Salim. Can I have Dixon? Dixon? Okay, can we have Mwonge David? Mwonge David? Mwonge David, are you still there with your question?
Mr. Moses. Yes.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moses. I'm Mwonge David Bukaseses Kalangala. I joined a bit late, but I would maybe request, if possible, if there is a presentation maybe on YouTube where you can download and have it from the beginning. Then next is that suppose somebody has just begun service, for example, within 2 to 3 years, and absolutely, maybe by God forbid somebody passes away and without getting confirmed, because we have also confirmation bodies here, confirmation as a teacher, and someone has not even confirmed. Am I entitled to those benefits? I need maybe to get some clarification. And maybe when does it begin? Is it from the day I start my service? That's when you begin calculating the retirement benefits? Thank you so much, Mr. Moses.
Okay, thank you. Can we have 2 last questions? Okay, there's Magezi's iPhone. Kindly change your name so that we can pronounce it well and also take for our records. But Magezi's iPhone, can you have your question? Yes. And then there's Techno J.
Yes, please. Moses, thank you so much for the presentation. My question is only one. When we were comparing the old scheme and this new scheme, we saw a number of exit modes in the old scheme. Will these modes be all available in the current scheme? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll take 2 more questions, then we'll go to the responses. Makuba, and then Jacent as the last question. Makuba? Makuba, please, your question. Mukobi Makuma, please. Okay, can we have Jacent with a question?
Yes, thank you. Jacent from Kalungu District Local Government. So my question is about the 2 pension schemes. I saw how they were calculating the pension from the previous scheme, but I don't know if they presented it or I missed it somewhere because I was on and off. The calculation for the current scheme, are they the same or they are different? And if they are different, for those ones who are going to retire more than 5 years, how is it going to be? Is this also going to be given under the current scheme? Is it going to be given on a monthly basis like it has been before, or it is different?
Okay.
Thank you. That's my question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Members, now allow me to respond to these questions. We're really running out of time. And some, unfortunately, other people, I have to mention phone names and all that. So I'll keep it at that for now. But members, let me respond to these questions. And if my colleagues are on, I'll also, in the parting notes, they'll have 1 or 2 words to say. There's a question about, what about employees who contribute to 2 different schemes, both the old one and the reformed one? I did make it clear, and I'll repeat in my presentation, that under the scheme, your benefits are going to be preserved under what's called the pension bond. Pension bond is a commitment of government to say that now that we have reformed and you're moving the new scheme, you have 100 million with me under the old scheme, hypothetical figure. So that means that is still your money. And when you retire, at retirement, your benefits are going to be computed. So what this means is that money from your retirement bond is going to come to the fund, and the fund is going to pay you all your monies based on the old and the new scheme. And Now, the that they're calculating your old scheme is they're acknowledging that you did work under the old scheme and you have benefits. And these benefits are still just being preserved by government. And when you retire, you get your benefits both from the old and the new scheme. So moving to the new scheme doesn't mean that you forfeit your old scheme benefits. I just want to confirm to you that if you are going to work under the two schemes, at retirement, both benefits under the old and new scheme will be computed and both will be given unto you. I think that's clear. And another thing I want to make very clear across board is that not everything under the old scheme has been reformed. How do people retire? All those things have been maintained. Apart from the major reforms that I mentioned, the other things have remained the same. If a person is dying, the criteria is still the same. So nothing much, not everything is changing. The key changes are the ones I mentioned. Maybe I can do a small recap about that tomorrow, but not everything has changed. Apart from the reforms which have been changed, qualifying period is still the same. Mandatory, we have not changed your year of retiring, still 60 for mandatory. Early retirement still 45 plus 10 years or 20 years. The rest of the things have all remained the same. Then salary stopped. When does the pension of a deceased stop? Okay, ideally our expectation is that one, when you retire, when a pensioner dies, the pensions authority is supposed to be notified and immediately the benefits are stopped. Payments are stopped, and we expect the beneficiaries to now get letters of administration. Now, the stopping of this benefit doesn't mean that the person doesn't have any more benefits with the fund. No, it is still the same arrangement. We all know pension is for 15 years from retirement. So I mean that if a person dies before their 15th year after retirement, the next of kin or the beneficiary is still supposed to get the benefits of the deceased to when the deceased have otherwise made 15. So, but however, we cannot continue paying a dead person because even legally, you're supposed to access the account of a dead person to continue drawing their pension. So what happens is that such a family is supposed to go to Office of Administrator General. They get letter of administration. Letter of administration simply means that someone will be appointed to manage the estate of the dead, of the deceased. And once you do that, then you will go to your entity and they'll open an estate. You go to a bank, an estate account will be open, and you go to your district or ministry or whatever the person will have retired from. Then they will put the records, and then this person will start receiving the benefits of the deceased until when the dead person will have otherwise made the 15 years. So this doesn't, the stopping is just administrative because ideally you cannot pay a person who is deceased. I know there's a wrong practice that even if someone dies, they continue. But you accessing that money, I know some people even, when a person is sick, you get their ATM, you get their PINs, but it's until when the PINs expire, the ATM expire, you now realize you can't, the bank will not allow you to access that money. So our request is go get letter of administration where we get to know the address of the estate, and address of the estate will continue to get all these benefits. Someone said on they joined late. Yeah, our YouTube channel is there, but also whatever is there is recorded. So for those who came in late, you can still go back to the YouTube channel and you'll be able to get all the presentation, all the interactions from the start to the end. You'll be able to access that. And someone said that you work 3-5 years. I think that's still the same. The benefits are still the same, and that you're still entitled to a death gratuity. When does retirement benefit start? It starts when you start work. That is why it's always important for us to know your date of assumption of duty. It doesn't start from when you're appointed, but when you assume duty, just like your salary. So if you're appointed in January 2025 and you come to work, you start working February 2025, your benefits will start in February 2025, not January. And then exit under the other modes. As I clearly said that the modes of retirement are not changing. This scheme is not changing the modes of retirement. It will continue to be the same. and you continue to get your benefits. And it's a formula based, so the benefits are still going to, whether retirement on medical grounds, all the other types of exits are going to continue to be there. The only one of the major reforms we did, as I informed you, is that unlike before, if you exited government through a disciplinary action and you're dismissed, where you forfeit your benefits, under this new scheme, you not forfeit your benefits. First and foremost, you'll still be able to redeem your benefits under the old scheme, but also you'll be entitled to a refund of contribution. Mean that what both government contributed for you and you contributed for yourself will be refunded unto you if you're going to live through other modes of exit like discipline, which previously didn't attract any benefits. Then calculation and of the current and past. Yeah, of course, the current, with the use of an actuary, we shall calculate the benefits under the old scheme, and your determined bonds will clearly stipulate how much it is. And actually, is the specialist in calculating both future values of money and all this and that. So an actuary will be engaged, and they will be able to calculate that, and we shall be able to pay all those money. So not everything is changing. Most of the things under the old scheme are still. You just need to look at the major reforms. And I want to promise that tomorrow, as we start, we'll have a small recap and we're able to go through the reforms again. Members, it's midday, and as we promised, we don't want to take much longer. But at this point, my colleagues who presented today, I don't know whether they have parting shots. Maureen and Joseph, are we there?
Yes, Moses, we are here.
Can I have parting shots from you, Joseph, just in 1 minute?
Yes, maybe on behalf of my colleague, we just want to express our sincere appreciation to all the people who have attended, especially from as far as the individual. We have had people from Kenya attending, so we want to express our thanks to you and each and every one of us who has been able to listen in. We hope you've benefited and gained some knowledge, and we wish you a good day. Thank you so much.
A screenshot of this video.
Okay, thank you so much. And then Maureen?
I spoke on her behalf.
All right, thank you so much. For me, members, I want to thank you very, very much. We really appreciate it. We got our Zoom link very full. That is very encouraging. And I also got a lot of people on YouTube who are really appreciative. And we really want the same enthusiasm for tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll start at 8:30 with a recap. Kindly join. We have a lot of new things tomorrow. Kindly also note that for those who have attended, kindly, we need to take a few of your photos, shots, and so kindly for now, we'll request that you take your pics, you unmute your videos. For now, let's see who is this, who is who. I think you can see me there, so that you don't know it's not AI who has been talking to you, it's me. So kindly unmute we could take a few for record purposes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes, we can just do that. Kindly do that to take record of that. And as I said, tomorrow we have a whole package of interesting presentations. Most of the presenters today were from Ministry of Public Service, the ones managing this. But tomorrow we're having another all range, so we're getting someone from Bank of Uganda. We're getting another person from Administrator General, so it's a whole lot interesting. Otherwise, we are so encouraged. And these attendants actually give us more reason to have more of these engagements. And we can make this a quarterly practice. Shall do this and kindly keep your videos on for 5 minutes, and then we'll be done.
Is mine there?
Albert, not yet, but
they have heard me.
If you see yourself, then we can see you.
Wow.
I've seen a number of them, yeah. This is good. We're capturing all this. Kindly keep it on for the next. Keep the smiles there. It's nice to see all the smiles. Quite a number of familiar people. This is nice. Let's just have this for 4 or 5 minutes and then we close the day. Thank you very, very much. And please don't forget to log in tomorrow. And for others, for those who may not have access, kindly allow your colleagues to join and listen through your computer, through your phone, the message the same. We had 2 people who joined us from Kenya. That was really encouraging. As they say, okay, some of the information may be relevant to them, but some of the package is still good for them. And we think in the spirit of East African community, we really appreciate sharing our knowledge with you. And we say that if you light a candle, you lose nothing. So we appreciate that you're able to join from there. Yeah, we're capturing 3 minutes to go. So just be a little patient. One more minute, and then we're done. We'll close officially, and then So members, from me, you've been an amazing audience. I really want to say I totally appreciate this. It has been very, very nice. We have someone from the police force. We're really happy to have you here. You're part of us. Suman, we're happy to have you here. You're really part of us, and we're happy to have you here. To all of you, see you all tomorrow. Sorry?
What is your phone number?
Oh, my phone number. Okay, I'm going to communicate my contacts, my phone number and my emails. What we'll do tomorrow, at the tail end of this, we'll share the contact of the Secretariat. Both, all the presenters, you get their contacts, yes? Everyone's contact, we're going to share. We're public officers, so this will be shared. Otherwise, from us to you, have a very lovely rest of the day and enjoy the rest of your day at work. Let's meet again tomorrow, and we'll end exactly midday tomorrow. God bless you.
Thanks,